What's up, all y'all spooky ghouls and goblins out there? Welcome back to another episode of I'll Call You Right Back podcast. I'm your host for this evening. My name is Chad Medved, and this is my podcast, and I appreciate you coming on by. First thing is first, this podcast is proudly sponsored by Turner Dairy Farms, the creators of Turner's Premium Iced Tea, and the brand new candy bar flavored limited edition milk that is... It's about to dry up. The well is about to dry up. Currently, they are out of production. Whatever's on the shelf is what's left. So run on down to the local bodega, grab yourself a candy bar flavored milk while supplies last. But the reason that everyone is here this week, the reason that everyone is here, every week, of course, we have a great guest. But before we get to him, I'd like to tell you why I do what I do for October. So, every October, I believe that this is going to be my fourth Halloween season. And every October, I try to decide to shift the focus of the guests to kind of fit the vibe of October. I want it to be spooky. I want it to be creepy. I want it to be weird and bizarre. In the past, I've talked to funeral directors. I've talked to artists that use dead bugs and dead animals. I've talked to, mediums. I've talked to, all kinds of people that kind of fit that vibe. And I just love it. I mean, it's the end of September right now. The weather outside currently, I believe, is in the low 50s. And it was almost too cold last night to leave a window open all night. It's like, I could feel it. It's here. The time is now. This is my time. I love it. And I just want to carry on any sort of vibes that I can. I mean, like everything about October is like, is so near and dear to my heart. Going to haunted houses, going to see different decorations, just going into Halloween stores, seeing everything great. And, I finally, now that the weather's shifted into hoodie weather, I believe that it's here. I feel it in my bones that it's here, and I'm ready to begin that journey for this year. And this year, I have no better guest to set us off than Ricky Dick from Castle Blood in Monessen. Now, Rick is someone I've had on the podcast in the past. I believe he was episode 41 back in October in 2018, so 4 years ago. And back then we talked about, kind of how he got into what he does. But, fast forward 4 years later, and I get a message that said this was going to be his 30th year of being a haunt. And it's pretty crazy to think about that, 30 years as a haunted attraction in Pittsburgh. I mean, I'm sure we all could remember all the ones that have been brought up and then have went away over the years. You had some down Station Square. You had different names on ones that are current now. And, I don't know. Pittsburgh has a wide, range of horror culture here. Obviously zombies, obviously it was kind of like born here as the zombie capital of the world, but we got a pretty good solid roster of haunted houses around here. But my favorite haunted house of all of them is Castle Blood. Castle Blood, like I said, is in Monessen, 100 Shoonmaker Road to be exact. They are the most unique haunted house you'll ever go to. I try to describe it in a way, but it's almost like, words don't do it justice. You go there, it's an interactive experience, it's family friendly, which means you're going to go there and you're going to get scared a little bit, but it's not something that it's just you running through a dark room for the whole time with chainsaws running after you. In fact, it's quite the opposite. You go in there and immediately you are encapsulated by the surroundings. Castle Blood is the home of all of these creatures that Rick and his family kind of created. And I said gravely because that's Rick's That's Rick's person. That's Rick's alter ego. That's Gravely. He's the caretaker of Castle Blood. He's been there for hundreds of years. And, he has a whole family full of creepy ghouls and goblins that haunt the place while you walk through it. And like I said, from the beginning, you're encapsulated by, and throughout the whole experience, you're solving puzzles. You're interacting with the people around you. You're interacting with the actors. And it's on a different level than just like, running by them spooking you and you walking by. It's like you kind of got to figure some stuff out to be able to make it through. And I can't urge people enough to give it a shot this year if you haven't. Castle Blood in Monessen is, it's the most unique place you will be. But this week, Rick comes on again. We sit down, we talk about, what it means to be a haunt in Pittsburgh and, southwestern PA. And we talk about, his passion. This guy lives and breathes Halloween. He lives and breathes, the haunt culture. He lives and breathes it. The guy drives a hearse. He's the whole deal. I love it. I'm very, very happy that, he wanted to come back on and talk about it. It makes me, I mean, like when people are doing cool stuff like that, it's like, I'm honored to be able to want to be involved. Like I'm honored for him to want to come on and talk to me again because he's doing such cool things, and it's just I want to be able to kind of shed some light on it for anyone that might not have heard about it, because surprisingly enough, Castle Blood has been around for 30 years, but no one knows about it. I mean, people know about it, but it doesn't get this like crazy long and drawn out and like crazy PR marketing package that you might see by some of the bigger haunts around here. These people are a core group. And whenever I say a core group, Rick's told me that this year he's given out numerous 25-year patches for some of the workers in the castle. And like to think about that is crazy. This is a team that is done and built and upkept and, just kind of, it's all them. You know what I mean? It's not like a crazy business. It's just people that love it. They live for the culture and they want to keep it alive. So before we get to the episode, Rick has also gave me 2 tickets to kind of hold a giveaway. So my plan is I am going to, throw in a couple things that I got for the podcast. We got 2 tickets to Castle Blood. We're going to do a giveaway. Go follow the Instagram at I'll Call You Right Back. I'll post some details on how to be able to win some tickets for their opening weekend. Opening weekend is going to be the 7th of October, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday they're open. And you could go on their website, thecastleblood.com, and get any details. You could purchase tickets ahead of time, and you can, ultimately seal your fate. So, without further ado, episode 219 of I'll Call You Right Back podcast with Ricky Dick of Castle Blood.
I gotta use the telephone.
Hello?
Telephone.
I'll call you right back. Call you right back.
Telephone.
I'll Call You Right Back podcast.
Well, I mean, over 200 of these, I would hope so.
Yeah, you would think so, that I would have to, I would be able to handle myself a little bit differently than last time. It's, I have a different board that I usually record in now. Like, I got a whole different setup. This is kind of like quick on the go. The other one has like a sampling pad. You could put, sounds that you could play, all kinds of wild stuff.
You can be crazy DJ.
Crazy DJ. I could put clips in there. So it adds a little bit extra, but I would much rather be interviewing here.
Yeah.
This adds a little bit.
It's good for you guys to say just to hang here,
Yeah. I mean, like I always like, this is a perks of the job where I could like kind of get the behind the scenes of stuff. Mm-hmm. Like not everyone really gets to see, but Castle Blood 30th year.
30th year.
Like that's pretty monumental.
30th Halloween season, not technically 30th anniversary the way it goes, right?
Yeah.
But our 30th Halloween season.
And that's pretty incredible. And you said how, like, what's the statistic?
Well, when I started, this statistic was 4 or 5 and out, like any small business.
Yeah.
In Pittsburgh is so supportive of this kind of stuff in general. That's why there's so many, too many maybe, but so many haunts that I think maybe 10 and out.
Yeah.
But then there's like it seems now there's these 7 or 8 going to be here forever until the owner don't want to.
Yeah. Don't want to do all the work.
Yeah.
Do you think that you mentioned that like the city is, we're pretty keen to the haunt life.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that other cities are not like this?
No, I don't. I don't think they are. I think some cities have, like areas of Ohio and Michigan have tons and tons of haunts, but I don't think it's because of the overall weird culture like that Western Pennsylvania has. I mean, with Romero and everything, how could they, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So it's like a lot of them, that's why the average is the 5 and out, because somebody gets mad at a haunt, some assistant manager leaves, screw you, I can do this better.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden there's another haunt in the area. And they populate like that. It also used to be that the industry trade show was in Chicago. So Indiana, Michigan, and Ohio, it was always easy to get to the trade show. So people that might have even just been home haunters in the 80s or 90s could all of a sudden get the good stuff and ended up going pro. So that there's kind of a 200-mile radius around Chicago where it's really tons and tons of haunts.
Yeah.
And I have nothing to back this up. I always thought it was just because the trade show was right in their backyard and you go there for classes, you go there for everything. So,
yeah.
I mean, we never used to see California haunters go to the Chicago show.
Yeah, I guess
it was in March or February. Nobody from California wants to go to Chicago
I
in
know,
March
in
or
the snow.
February.
Tragic weather for
Right.
them.
So and so the SoCal home haunters, there's not a lot of pro haunters because of all the theme parks in Southern California.
Yeah, it's
But
hard to
there's
compete.
200 home haunters that they may only have 4 rooms in their garage, but they're as good as any pro haunt you'll see.
Yeah, they like put everything into it.
And well, they don't have to worry about rain.
Yeah.
They don't have to worry. They have to worry about heat and wind, but they're not going to be rained out like we are. Like
That's a good
corn
point.
mazes around here can be. And
I guess I
and
never
they have
thought
nice
about
weather,
that.
so they can actually work on it all year round.
Yeah.
And they're not worried about a profit margin, so they just all have jobs, and this is their hobby. And they have that freedom of, I'm going to do whatever I want on a small scale, and they're all awesome. So in Pittsburgh, we have tons and tons because, well, it's just zombie capital of the world, or so the T-shirts say.
Yeah, that's interesting, and it's wild that you just said that you brought up rain, because I guess I never really thought about that. It's like we have how many days of rain a year, and like that's like a lot of them happen in October.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's something you got to deal with.
Western Pennsylvania has less sunny days than Seattle, and nobody believes that. Seattle's supposed to be the suicide capital of the world because it's so gloomy.
Yeah.
And we actually have less sunny days than Seattle.
I went out there. I had no complaints at all. Loved it. Beautiful. I also like this. I love this dreary weather. Like this is a couple degrees colder. That's like,
oh yeah.
That's my bag for sure. But last time we talked was 2018.
Okay.
You were going into the 26th season. I was very green at this. I think I've been doing this for 5 months. Terrible interviewer, but I was happy when you hit me up, because I intended to, holler at you guys again, because October, you're going to be the kickoff of the spooky episodes for this season, and that's usually what I do. October, I try to find some people that fit the Halloween vibe, and you were nice enough before. Look at that. Creepy stuff already happening in here.
Kidding. Wow. As we're doing and talking about this, all of a sudden...
Is that not supposed to happen?
It's not on a timer or anything. No, they're variable lights, so they can go up and down, but I set them on full so we could see each other better, and it's right there, and nobody's touching anything, and the remote is right there, too, and the lights just faded off. Well, that's fun.
In 2018, I came to Castle. So even before that, my wife got me started on Castle Blood. I think my first year here was probably 2014, 2015, right whenever we started dating. And her mother, like, I don't even know how you guys got started. She was Awarians whenever you went to where were you at 2 places before this? What was
We were in Bellsville, down on Route 40, like by most people know Scenery Hill down there.
Yeah, that's where it was.
Bellsville's like halfway between Washington and Uniontown on Old Route 40.
Okay, yeah. So that's where she started to go and go to your haunts, and then just kind of followed you through and brought me here. But this place was so unique that it like always kind of like stuck with me. I'm like one of them horror junkies, just like we were kind of talking about, that Pittsburgh kind of cultivates, and I feel like it's, we needed to have a proper interview. I feel more confident in my abilities.
Oh, no problem. I thought it was a great time last time.
Yeah, I had a wonderful time. It really was good. I was listening to, parts of it to just see like what we were kind of going over. But it was, I'm happy to do this again. But that was creepy that we're sitting in this haunted house and these lights just dim for no reason.
Yep. Nope. Yeah, it's like there's the controller right over there on the little shelf, and the mechanism is there. And
I don't feel spooky for any reason though. Like I don't feel like I don't have goosebumps or like the hairs on my neck standing up. And the last time we talked, you said that there was always a lot of activity in here, but you said it was never. You said it was more mischievous, not really like mean or. I can't remember. You say benevolent?
For us. I mean, some of the townie stories and some of the stories from people that lived here have different opinions.
Maybe it's just the type of people that are here. If you're a good person,
I
then
hope so.
yeah.
Or that I explain to them all the time that if this doesn't work, this place was close to being torn down before we got it,
I'm giving you guys a good place to stay.
Well, the building we were in 96 and 97 got torn down after we left, and they put a Family Dollar there. So I tell these guys, hey, if you don't want to be Family Dollar ghosts, you gotta work with me a little here,
Yeah, that's cool though. That's cool that just happened. So you just said that last night you had or Friday night you had
Friday
a haunt?
and Saturday.
Now
we're taping on a Sunday, so we just did Friday and Saturday ghost hunts.
And that's you guys been doing that for a while, right?
Yeah, we have since. I guess this is our 4th year, maybe 5th year of doing them.
Yeah.
Ghost and Nat out of Pittsburgh, been around for a while. The owner is an old MTV Ghost Academy, I think it was called, member. So he was on reality show ghost hunt shows to begin with.
Yeah.
And then started his own gig here,
and they go around to different places?
Yeah, they're very, very professional. I mean, it's just amazing. It's just like a whole little army comes in with suitcases full of equipment.
Yeah.
And all these electrical beep, bop, boop stuff that I don't understand. And
like, how big is a team? Like 5 people?
No, they bring 4. We split the cut. It's their event. They just come and I open the door and
let them use
and
this.
they write me a nice little check that helps repairs around here.
Yeah.
You know? And so they sell the tickets, and they usually do groups. They do 4 groups of people, no more than 10 in a group.
Okay.
And before they started, they did a lot of investigations, just 2 or 3 of them here on their own, and they figured out the 4 hot spots they've seen. So they split their people into the 4 zones, and they can set up all their equipment and stay there all night, and all for the show. It's like 3 or 4 hours, and then I have one of my guides, one of my actors, stay with each group so they can walk them from group to group.
Yeah.
So they don't get lost and, stuff like that.
Don't get taken by the ghouls.
And nothing gets taken because we don't know these people.
Yeah.
To be honest. Right?
Yeah.
So they have a little supervision. But then when they're in each big room or in each area or whatever, they let them use their equipment and everything. It's very cool.
That's awesome. I definitely did a couple things like that. I haven't had any experiences that were that stuck out in my mind, but I'm not opposed to doing things like that. Your personal experiences in this place, like I'm sure you've had, multiple things happen to you.
I've heard stuff and I've felt stuff. I've never seen the librarian from Ghostbusters fly out of the wall at me. It's not like that.
But
I've caught things out of the corner of my eye. And
yeah.
I've caught, and I've heard things, especially, if I'm here by myself, it's like, okay, I know we have a raccoon out in the yard and might get in once, who knows if it gets in through the basement window or some nonsense like that, know, but
this place has a basement?
Yeah.
Is it eerie?
Yeah, people don't go there. Even the cast members won't go down there.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the customers think they're in my basement because of the crypt halls and the way we do everything.
Yeah.
But there's another level below that.
Jesus.
Yeah, with a big giant sink where they used to clean out all the stuff from when it was a funeral parlor, like one of them 6-foot giant sinks. And
my goodness.
And a couple of Pittsburgh toilets down there. And
ugh. Jeez, do you go down there?
Well, I have to. 'Cause that's where the electrical service and the compressors and everything are.
Do you feel weird down there?
Absolutely. One time I was like having a weird day, and I'm like, come on, I talk to them as if they're around all the time.
Yeah, like they're
right?
cats or something.
Right. So I'm like, come on, guy. And I'm like cursing because I'm like running wires or doing something down there, And as I'm leaving, we have a bunch of like string lights, like patio lights down there to light everything up as bright as possible. You want it as bright as possible down there. And as I'm leaving, the string light bulb started popping behind me as I was leaving, like 4 of them in a row.
Way.
So, some people will
Jesus.
say I didn't wire them right, and that's fine. It's like I turned around and I didn't see anybody punching them, but
And how long have you guys been in here?
Our first season here was 2014.
Now, I don't know if I could come back in if that happened to me.
Yeah, it's a little dicey.
I guess you don't have no choice, right?
Right.
Now, whenever how many different places you had before the location we're at?
5 castles. 2 of them were in the same location. We moved and then moved back to a location. Like when it was in my house in Bellsville.
Yeah.
It started there just as trick-or-treat stuff, right?
And what year?
In 93.
Okay.
And we did that 3 years. By the third year, we were getting so many people for trick-or-treating, we actually opened for a couple of days and charged a couple bucks to come in.
So
'Cause
93 was
to
the first.
But 93 was the first. We used to dress up and open the door for trick-or-treaters.
Yeah.
But we did vampires and had a big banner that said Castle Blood and stuff like that in 93.
Yeah, so it wasn't necessarily like an attraction. You were decorating for Halloween, and
Correct.
you already had all this, and you invited people into your home to enjoy it.
Correct.
Okay, yeah. So, and that was in '93, but nothing before that.
Nothing official as Castle Blood.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been doing this kind of stuff since the 80s.
Yeah.
I had a costume and makeup studio when I still lived in New Jersey. I lived in Maryland for a couple of years, and we did in a nice little condo in a planned community, but we did our front yard Halloween night to scare trick-or-treaters and stuff like that. But
nothing really.
but I did, and then again, once we moved to Pennsylvania, we would dress up and we would answer the door for trick-or-treat.
Wow.
But we never did anything codified as even a home haunt until 93.
Yeah.
So we did the home haunt thing for 93. In 95, the third year there, it kind of snowed on Halloween, and a lot of I had a bunch of actors then. By a bunch, I mean like, I don't know, 16 maybe.
Yeah.
And, it was really cold a couple of nights, and they were getting sick, and I'm like, if we're going to do this, we need a real building.
Yeah.
So we bought one in Bentleyville, the neighboring town. And it was a big, giant 3-story apartment building, 100 years old, with its own crazy history and crazy goings-on in there. And it really didn't work out in that town for a number of reasons. And we said, the heck with this.
Was that like a bigger town? Like
Bentleyville's bigger than Bellsville. Bellsville only has 500 people in it.
Yeah.
Bentleyville has 2,500 maybe.
And no other haunts in there?
No.
Yeah.
No. But it's closer to 70 and, and fast food places and stuff like that. So it wasn't a horrible location.
Yeah.
But the parking was bad. We were assured it would be good because we bought the building from the borough secretary. So everything was hunky-dory until we spent the money and moved in. And then all the parking lots weren't available and, nonsense like that. And
Yeah.
so after 2 years, it's like, well, this town isn't going to support this. And we just went back home, basically, and gave up on having an actual yard because we had a really big double lot that the house was on, and we built everything there, and there was no zoning because it was right on Route 40, so it was always zoned commercial since like the 1800s, right? Because it's the national road, so you can do it. There's a million little houses along the road that have businesses in them,
Wow.
So we did that. They didn't go through our whole house, but they did actually, even when we were full pro, they did actually go in my house.
Yeah.
But most of it was outside and in outbuildings, and we had a big garage in the back, so that turned into sets, and then we put little yard barns here and there that would be sets and
Wow.
and stuff like that. And from the pictures, you can hardly tell we're even outside most of it. Even most of the industry didn't realize we were a backyard outdoor haunt.
Was
it
other
was
people-
big. It was probably 4,000 or 5,000 square feet that we were using.
Jeez.
So it still took, it was smaller than here.
It probably still
Pretty
took a good
big. It took
15 minutes.
It took 45. Well, once we started playing the games and doing all the
yeah.
stuff. Yeah, if it was a normal haunt, you'd go through in 15 minutes. But, the way we do things here, it was a 45-minute tour easy.
So now what you guys do here is definitely different than anything that I've ever been to. That's why, this is my favorite place to come. It's like more interactive.
Mm-hmm.
It's you guys have the slogan no chainsaws.
Chainsaws are stupid.
Yeah, and it's just like you do more to like add more of an experience rather than just walking through, having someone pop out and scare you and keeping shuffling through. But so you're telling me that like that was always like part of the plan? It was
in '96 when we moved to Bentleyville.
Yeah.
One of our actors who's when I say she's not with us any longer, she didn't die. She just lives in New England and works other haunts now. She and I came up, Carol. She and I came up with the idea of, well, because we were all clowns and magicians and jugglers and variety arts performers before we started.
Yeah.
We've always been a little on the kid-friendly side, and even when we were just handing out trick-or-treat candy, if you're a magician, you don't want to just hand you appear a candy bar and give it to the kid. Because we're vampires, so, hey, we have to have powers or we don't look legit.
Yeah.
Like, if that's the problem with other haunts. If Jason doesn't actually chop your head off, he's not Jason, right?
Yeah.
So if you're a vampire, you have to be able to read minds, you have to be able to produce things, you have to be able to do things.
Wow.
So we did, even in the first years of trick-or-treating.
Yeah.
So when we moved to Bentleyville, it was like, well, if we're going to do this pro and we're really going to do this, we need to really codify who we are and what we are. We got the deal that we're classic monsters. That's fine. And in the 90s, classic monsters were still the black and white Universal monsters. Now, 30 years later, classic monsters are Freddy and Jason. They're old hat and funny, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we came up with this game thing of, well, what if they had to actually perform and do the magic things and do whatever, and they had to do stuff.
Yeah.
So when we first did it, it wasn't as complicated as it is now. It would be like, that was a big building, so there was like 20, 22, 23 sets, and 4 or 5 of them would deal with the actual quest of the night.
Yeah.
And the rest of it would be more typical haunt things and scares and stuff like that.
Yeah, because you can't hold up people in 25 rooms for 5 minutes apiece.
Right, exactly. Our timing back then was 3 minutes, just to make sure we could do a little something in some of the rooms.
Yeah.
And as it grew, all of a sudden magicians started being our customers, and then magicians started wanting to join.
Oh,
and
wow.
then other performers are like, lots of people try and get the high school drama kids to come. But the high school drama kids want to do drama. They don't want to necessarily be scare actors. So we would actually get the ones that wanted to perform. So I'm like, well, we're wasting their talents if we don't have them actually perform.
Yeah, like be in character.
Right, so.
Because here, for people that are like, that haven't experienced what's here, it's like, this is a fully, like, it feels like you're walking into, there's no breaking character. Like you're in a home. You're in this home of your. How do you even explain it to people?
We actually all live here. When we first started these kind of characters, after the first year of Vampires in '93, we switched to kind of Addams Family-ish characters.
Yeah.
Because back then when we were just trick or treat, we were going to do something different every year.
Yeah.
We didn't know that we were going to stay Castle Blood forever when we started.
Yeah.
So the Addams Family movies had come out in the early 90s, and everybody loved them. And they had those big ballroom scenes where there was all the relatives there.
Yeah.
And they all had weird names, too.
Yeah.
But we decided none of us looked like the Addams Family, but we could be every cousin.
That's awesome.
So that's kind of what we thought. We don't call ourselves Addamses. We don't whatever. But the original 10 or so characters are all like... That's why, my character's name is Gravely MacCabre, right?
Yeah.
And my ex-wife's name is Griselda, and there was Auntie Maimed, and there was Uncle Deddy and Cousin Creeply and stuff like that. So it'd be like that. So the whole idea always has been, this is our home. You're not going to a haunt, or you're not going to a building that they say is a haunt, which is fine, because that's how you got to do it. And it's downtrodden, and there's zombies and monsters and everything else like that coming at you with whatever they're coming at you, and serial killers or whatever. And we go to all those haunts and we love them. I've built dozens of them around the country.
Yeah, but it's
like
apples and oranges.
Right, that's all.
It's like you walk into here, and whenever I look at it, it's not just like plywood walls that are painted white with blood spattered on it that's just dark. It's like right now I'm sitting in a living room or a foyer that is fully decorated as a home. There's pictures on the wall, there's decor on the wall, there's couches, there's clocks. Like, this is a home. You could live here. If there was a TV right here, I could live here.
Right.
And that's what it looks like. And that's what's so much more like immersive than like, some of the others. And like you said, it's not to take anything away from what they do. It's just, it's a different, it's just a different thing.
Well, as I mentioned, when we moved the first time, we wanted to codify what we were.
Yeah.
Well, that was when George Romero was sponsoring a haunt down in Station Square.
Yeah.
That was when Savini was renting out his name for any haunt that would give him the $1,500 check.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And it's Pittsburgh Zombieland. Well, there was already good haunts doing that.
Yeah.
Good haunts, I mean, yes, it was the 90s and haunting was different. But, Phantoms in the before 100 Acre Manor,
Yeah,
Phantoms in the Park, they were here before us.
Yeah.
A lot of places were here before us, and that's all what they were doing. And I'm like, well, we don't need to do another one.
Yeah.
So what can we do that's more us and that we can all get into and have fun with?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So we could still be creepy and kooky and spooky, but we wanted to be a little on the wry and a little on the funny once in a while, and
Yeah,
a little wacky here and there when it's needed to, because just like any good horror movie, if they build you up and then do a joke, they can build you up and then scare you easier the next time.
Yeah, for sure.
So we go back and forth. So that's why we do the style.
And it's cool because like it's cool to hear that you were working with a smaller space. You said you had like about 4,000 square foot whenever you did this in your home. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're adding in like these like puzzles and games and things like that, you could work with more. You could use what you got more effectively by like, you don't want to just run through a couple minutes. Like,
right.
If you're charging a fee, you want to like prolong that experience. So those like games are perfect and that's why I love these, because it's like, it gives you an opportunity to go into the fortune teller room and sit there and look around on all the shelves and see all the different things. And while you're playing this, while you're having this interaction with them, that's not just a boo and then you walk through. And it's just fun. It's a different level of it. It's definitely enjoyable. And you said that you were always like somewhat kid friendly. I would still consider it like this. Like we brought my buddy's kids here, and this place is just scary enough to, enjoy the feel of being scared at a haunt. But it's not just what it relies on. It's fun. I don't know. It's an experience for people that haven't been here. They need to come in and experience themselves.
Yeah, and the heavily decorated and the slower throughput, as it's called in the industry, 5 minutes. Now it's 5 minutes between each group. The double edge of that is we love to decorate. It's what we love to do as fun all year. But if you're going to be in a room for that long, it has to be decorated.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be here in a group of, 5, 6, 7, 8 people. And there's always going to be people that are in the back of the group and may not be able to see the performer as well or whatever. So their eyes are going to start wandering, and they're going to be turning around, and just like you said, you look around. It's like, every corner, everything has to be true to whatever that is, and especially so once we started doing kid show matinees in the daytime with all the lights on.
Yeah,
it's like, well, adults used to come through just because we allow pictures during the matinees, and they're like, oh, this place has to be right.
Yeah,
we're letting who knows what take pictures now, and they're going to be who knows where.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's interesting to think about that, and it's interesting to think about like the thought you put into it rather than just making another haunt that everyone was doing. Because, like you said, it's like those ones are cool. I went to all of them growing up, and they were great. But something different is just something different. People like it. All. Now, whenever you were doing this at your house, was there any negatives to it? Like did you have any things that came up that kind of deterred you from doing it?
Only that most of it was outside.
Yeah.
So we couldn't do all those other holiday shows that we do now.
Yeah.
And sets and stuff got destroyed quicker, no matter how wonderfully we build them and how strong we try to build them.
Yeah, the weather is
It's just Western
terrible.
Pennsylvania weather. I mean, I have pictures from like out of my attic window of the old place looking down on the whole attraction with, what was it, in 90?
93 or 94, the blizzard.
Yeah, stuff
Yeah.
like that, with a foot of snow on everything.
Yeah.
And that
That's
water's got to
terrible.
go somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So, that was constant. I mean, it's always constant because we're in a really old building now. It's constant upkeep, but it's a different kind of constant upkeep. It's
I
always
bet it
bringing
is.
everything up to code and fixing the roof and fixing the this and, all
Keeping
new
water
electrical,
out.
all new, right. It's all that kind of stuff we deal with now. So,
Now, whenever you were having this at your house, like, what was your house like whenever it wasn't, the Halloween season? Was it always kind of...
well, we from 2006 to 2009, I had a Chili Billy horror host TV show that we actually filmed in my house.
Oh.
But we filmed it in my house in scenes that you didn't go through at Halloween. So it was like where I would be hosting from looked like a living room. Well, that was really my living room.
Wow.
And my couch is really made out of a coffin, and the coffee table is really made out of another coffin. And
So this was year-round. This wasn't just like,
I mean, there were rooms that were normal.
Yeah.
My sewing room was kind of normal, because it's just a work room,
Yeah.
stuff like that. And
Do you sleep in a coffin?
No. I have slept on a coffin.
Yeah.
But I do not sleep in a coffin as a regular thing.
Yeah, I think whenever I talked to Trundle Manor, I think they said that they actually have coffins for their baseboards or whatever like that. Who knows?
Right. Yeah.
Who knows with them? But whenever you're progressing and you're doing this in your home, and it's obviously manageable for being small like that, being in a smaller spot. You just saw the traction that you were getting to make you want to take on this endeavor again in a different location and kind of make this an official thing.
Yeah. Well, after we left Bentleyville and went back home, it turned into an official thing because that's when the internet started a little more, and that's when not social media as we know it now, but that's when all the haunters and all the industry all of a sudden became cognizant of everybody else.
Yeah.
And people were trading VHS tapes of their haunts and all that kind of stuff happened. So all of a sudden, because
What do you mean trading VHS tapes?
Well,
like
everybody
walking
would-
through it?
Yeah.
Oh,
you'd
to
never-
kind of show each other.
you'd never see. There was this guy. He was a great guy. He passed away a couple years ago. It was just his birthday the other day. John Floyd in New England. He would travel around the country on his own nickel and beg people to let him come in and film their stuff for him. And then he would leave. You'd get a copy of whatever he filmed as he left. And then he'd have this collection of stuff, and he put out a few videos of compilations of other haunts.
Wow.
And stuff like that. And we all finally got to see each other and know each other and see what each other does. And
Yeah, that's
and
awesome.
stuff like that. So everything kind of took off. And, costuming wise, we've always been way ahead of the curve because we were all costumers. And, before it was called cosplay, we were just going to fanish conventions and competing in the masquerades. And, we have the International Costumers Guild, which kind of set up a fair way to run masquerades at conventions and stuff.
Yeah.
I've had 6 different Lifetime Achievement Award winners from there as cast members here.
Jeez.
Right. So the costuming has dragged us along and will always cover us.
Yeah.
The acting, because my actors are actors,
Yes.
right? You can go to every other haunt and see some scare actors that are better than our regular actors, although a couple of my scare actors are just killer.
Yeah.
But our costuming, if that's what we show in my characters and makeup and stuff like that, that'll carry us until we learned to do the set dressing the right way.
Yeah.
Because that was not my forte originally. It was costuming and makeup.
Ah, yeah.
So that's why we're so character driven.
Huh.
And then I learned to do all the other stuff.
I guess that makes sense if you think about that. You had all those tools in your toolbox, and you just applied it to this, to this effect. That's pretty cool. Yeah, if you look at that's another thing you notice when you're here. It's like everyone's costume from Boris right out front. It's like that's like the first thing that hits you in the face is it's just a grand costume, like a 3-piece suit, and it's cool to see. It's cool to see that detail, not just like a nurse's like scrubs with blood splattered on them. You tell that extra level of care, that extra level of just like detail, and it's fun to look at. Like anywhere you look, even if even the room we're in, it's like there's always like a fun interaction here, and it's always great. It's cool that you had that experience of costuming, and I remember you telling me that, like, you know, you were in Scouts and like you started sewing early on, and you know, kind of developed that, and you used to make your own costumes. What was like now whenever you were growing up, it's like, what was your Halloween like? Were you always into it?
Yeah, it was actually magical. It was the Halloween that America thinks it had in the 60s and 70s, like you see on TV.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I'm the same age as Kevin Arnold on The Wonder Years was supposed to be. So it was like we grew up near the Jersey Shore in that kind of neighborhood of 3-bedroom ranches that were built on an old farm.
Yeah.
The farmhouse was still in the middle.
Wow.
You know, you'd go trick-or-treating, and it was just a flock of kids. The families all moved there in the early 60s. So by the mid-60s, the kids are old enough to do Halloween. The lady that lived in the farm, the family that lived in the farmhouse did the whole hocus pocus big house thing. Going to make us drink cider, bob for apples, give us donuts, stuff like that in the middle of this. It was insane. A friend of mine that lived around the corner from me, who's also named Ricky, his birthday was the end of October, so there was always a big party. So it was a Halloween party of all these kids, and it looked like a TV fake party.
Wow.
And the most remarkable thing, he lived 7 houses away from me, right? We're both named Ricky. He's in the industry too.
Really?
Yeah, you know, you go to Spirit Halloween and you see those little charity wristbands that you buy and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he works for Spirit Corporate. That's his whole deal.
Wow.
Yeah, he goes by Richard. He's Richard Terrio. He grew up right around the corner from me.
What a small world.
And boom, it's like, you know, social media hooked us up like we found each other again kind of thing, right?
Wow.
And it's like, yeah, so...
That's
it's
crazy.
Great. I talk to him all the time about, hey, you know, I get the sneak little don't tell anybody about what Spirit's doing the next year.
Yeah.
When the pandemic hit, I could go, are you guys getting anything from China this year? How's it going to work for you? And he'd kind of give me the lowdown on what was going on. And yeah, so it's really bizarre. So you ask about where I grew up. It spawned 2 people that are in the industry out of one little neighborhood.
Yeah, that's cool to hear.
Right? Yeah.
Because now I feel like you don't really see it as much. Like the place that I just moved, I've been there for. This is going to be my second Halloween there, but you know, there's no trick-or-treaters.
Right.
Literally not one. But the place that I lived before this, I think we handed out like 600 pieces of candy the first and second, you know, all the years we've been there. And I don't know, whenever I grew up, I lived on a very hilly part of town, so like it was difficult, but it was still like a big thing. You know, it was just still a huge thing. And it's cool to hear that you kind of had that like cinematic
totally
experience. Were your parents like into Halloween and costuming and all that?
Yes, they were, because my mom taught me to sew and stuff like that. And my dad had a job that took him out of town a lot, but he was always home for Halloween. I don't know intentionally or not, looking back on it. But he always took my sister and I out for trick-or-treating. And Mom stayed home and answered the door for, you know, at our house or whatever. And my dad got sick as we were getting older or whatever and didn't. But I ended up never trick-or-treating like without my little sister. Yeah. You know, when my dad couldn't take us, even though I was too old, I dressed up and me and her went.
That's awesome,
you know, stuff like that, right? And she's here. She's getting her 25-year patch this season. She's been with me 25 years working the haunt now.
Wow, that's incredible.
I have a picture of us in 1970 in our first little homemade vampire costumes, me and her.
That's awesome. You and like now, whenever you were younger and you're like coming up, do you remember like was there haunts like that there are now?
Well, there was the Jersey Shore Boardwalk haunts.
I guess that makes sense.
I mean, the first haunt I went to was in 77, and it was a Disney Haunted Mansion, so I'm kind of spoiled. Yeah. And then the Jersey Boardwalk haunts were all, like, flourishing in the late 70s as, like, when I was a teenager. Wow. But there weren't haunts like we know it now. And after I got out of high school and a couple years later ended up doing makeup and costumes and had my costume shop, that's when the Great Adventure Fire happened in New Jersey with the Haunted Mansion fire there, and some kids died because blah, 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 whatever. So all new codes and all new everything and very strict safety things came in all over New Jersey, and it kind of crushed new haunts from happening. Yeah. But that's how Haunted Hayrides really kicked off because, well, they're outside. We don't have any problems. Like the actual company that used to have the name Haunted Hayride or something like that was from New Jersey because of that. Wow. Yeah. I mean, Allen's Hayride here was since 79. They're like the oldest one in the country.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
But, yeah, that's awesome. It's so old time. It's like it's like the hayride that time forgot. If you want a historical, fun family thing, you go to Allen's Haunted Hayride.
I got to go
For
there.
sure.
I don't know if
They have a little indoor haunt now too. That's really good. It was a little sketchy the first couple of years, and they have a new designer, Mike, in there now, and he's really shook the little haunt up, and it's nice. It's real nice.
Wow. When you're, like going from a younger kid to a high school kid, did you have that that switch of like wanting to, be a more scary type of like focus? Like, yeah, you're extravagant, you're building your costumes out, and I think I remember you saying that like some of the things that you obviously made vampire costumes, but like did you ever get into like the prosthetics, like the blood and gore type of things? Like
when I had the
school?
costume shop, that's
what it was then.
Yeah, I mean, costume shop was a normal costume rental shop.
Yeah,
because there weren't any Party Cities and bag costumes in Spirit back then, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like,
right.
so
we had a makeup studio in it, and over the Halloween week, we would do, depending on the year, between 300 and 500 faces.
Oh, wow!
And a good half of them were gore.
Ah, cool.
Yeah,
cool,
like
cool.
we would
Okay.
do, because we're on the Jersey Shore where I was in Red Bank, which you may know from Jay and Bob, right?
Yeah.
The comic shop is right around the corner from where my costume shop used to be.
Oh, wow!
And not that it was there then. 'cause
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
older
yeah,
than
yeah.
them. But we were like halfway between New York City and Philly plus Atlantic City. So people would come in and spend big dollars to do crazy makeup to go win big dollars at parties.
Wow!
And bar parties and club parties and
when did all that
stuff
when did
that was the mid '80s. I was doing all that,
like latex and all that stuff kind of started to come
like
into
the
play?
Wuchi appliances and things you see at Spirit now were just coming out in '83, '84, just starting.
Okay.
With the cat noses and the bolt in the forehead and
Yeah.
the Spock ears and stuff like they were good professional quality.
Yeah,
Not like the big crazy ones you see when you're
yeah,
in
like the
dime store
headband
when-
with
right,
a knife through your head and everything.
Right. So the nice things started coming out that you could buy, but we were sculpting and casting our own appliances and our own zombie wounds and our own stuff like that too.
wow.
So we didn't have to
Worry
worry
about
about it. Yeah, we would just have boxes of scars, boxes of open wounds. So when the makeup artist had a customer that needed stuff like that, they would just go pick and choose and
My
start
goodness.
gluing and putting them on. And
How are you learning how to do all this?
There were books, the old school theatrical
Yeah.
makeup books. That's why our makeup looks like it was, because we learned stage makeup. We learned those things.
Yeah.
And we were so young when we had the store. I mean, I didn't open it. I bought the store.
You were
from-
22?
Yeah, 22, 23. Yep.
I feel like I remember that from the
Yep.
last interview.
And we would, I would go into, we're so close. It was a 45-minute bus ride to be in the New York Garment District.
yeah.
So I'd be able to go fabric shopping for the costume shop in the New York Garment District, right? Arguably best in the world.
Yeah.
But that's also where the makeup supply houses for Broadway and everything were.
Oh, wow.
And we didn't know you couldn't do this. We would just walk in and start talking to people.
yeah.
And like Bob Kelly, who was like, still has makeup supplies, but he was big name, right? A big name in supplies and in actual doing makeup. And he would just take us in the back and show us where they were ventilating, like making all the mustaches and beards for Broadway shows. And
Wow.
And then these guys, they'd have these big long, like you buy you go to the beauty supply places and you can see the hanks of hair that you can buy
Oh,
for
yeah,
doing
yeah, yeah.
extensions and stuff. Well, they've always had that kind of stuff, and they would string these things up in front of their workstations. And these guys were so quick; they would just take individual hairs, cut them off, and weave them into nets to do wigs, to do mustaches, to do whatever. Right?
Jeez.
Well, Bob used to give us shopping bags full of those wefts after the guys were done.
Oh, so you had all this material to use.
So he would just go, "Hey." Yeah, I think he was just impressed that we were ballsy kids that were just like, eh.
Yeah, that wanted to learn.
So when we were doing Wolfmen, we were doing like human hair Wolfmen
Wow.
because we had the stuff. We weren't doing any,
Yeah, you didn't have to fork out money.
Wolfmen, we were cutting up wigs from the thrift store like
Yeah,
every
yeah,
kid
yeah.
does.
But like whenever you had the opportunity to not have to spend money on these great supplies, and you
we
could
would-
use them.
Right, and just by
Wow.
being that young too, they also hooked us up with wholesale accounts to get the stuff we needed to buy.
And I assume that there wasn't a lot of people doing what you were doing.
No, there was not. There was
Wow.
not. There's a lot, and actually, to be honest, all these years later, a bunch of my artists still live on the Jersey Shore and still do makeup every Halloween for people.
Really?
Yep, absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
That's incredible.
Yep, in Tom's River, you can find Lisa Penzimer, who was one of my makeup artists in 1985 and 6. She still looks just like we used to do. And that, to be honest, that style of what we used to do is what the Castle characters look like.
Wow.
Because my old makeup artists from the store have come out here once in a while as guest actors.
Yeah.
And they just throw down because their makeup looks exactly like it's supposed to here. And people that have been here for years will turn around and go, well, who the hell is that? And who did their makeup? I'm like, well, they did it because they helped me design what actually you're wearing for the past 20 years, you know?
Wow. That's really cool. Like I mean, being that young, how do you even get the idea of wanting to open your own store like that?
Well, there was a magic shop in town, and he would find people, because of the Jersey Shore haunts on the boardwalk, there were people that were sort of doing makeup a lot, right?
Okay.
So they would start doing a few makeup jobs in the magic shop for Halloween.
Oh, okay.
And I saw a flyer one time, and I was already doing costumes, but I didn't know makeup real well. And I was going to this big party we used to go to every year. And I'm like, well, geez, if we could get really cool makeup to go on top of the costume, man, we're going to go kick butt at this thing.
Yeah.
So we did. And then I met everybody, and then they were impressed with my costumes, and I was impressed with their makeup. And I still had a sort of regular job then. But I started hanging out, and I started learning the makeup more and all like that. And then a couple years later, my parents passed away, and I got a big insurance check. And at the same time, the lady who owned the town costume shop passed away.
Wow.
And we obviously worked with her at the Magic and Makeup shop, right?
Yeah.
So the family approached us, and I was the only one with money. I'm like, well, I'm going to buy the costume shop, and how about you makeup artists? Because the magic shop went out of business.
Wow.
How about you makeup artists? You all just come here, and I'll build you a big makeup studio in the costume shop, and come Halloween, you'll make some dough. And
my goodness.
And I was like, yeah. I was 22,
How long did you have
23.
that shop?
Well, the shop existed for 10 years before me. I had it for 3, and then I sold it to one of my makeup artists when I moved to Maryland. And it's continued for another 15 years or so.
My goodness.
And some of the kids, we used to get little kids in town, just street urchins that wanted to come sweep floors and hang out and whatever, and they ended up in the industry.
Wow.
Like not in the haunt
What was it
industry.
called?
It was called Costumes Unlimited. How original, right? But,
Costumes Unlimited. That's cool, though, to be young and entrepreneurial and wanting to kind of.
Well, it was one of these. Well, my parents are gone. I never went to college. I better figure out something.
Yeah,
what am I
should
good
get
at?
off the pot.
Luckily they taught me how to build things and do things.
Wow.
So I was like, well, I know how to build stuff and do stuff, and I like this fanish, weird horror and science fiction stuff. Let's try that.
Man. And it was just you had a lot of business from the beginning because there wasn't a lot of other.
Yeah. As far as the makeup stuff, nobody else was doing it. You couldn't go get professional style makeup anywhere.
Wow. Back then, what did a face cost to do?
Like a full werewolf would be $100, which is a lot of money in the 80s.
Yeah.
Obviously, right?
And how long did that take?
A couple hours.
Yeah. Wow, that's so cool. And
a regular appointment was $25 for a 2-dimensional, just grease paint.
Yeah.
2-dimensional face.
Wow. And man, that's so cool. And that lasted, and then you moved to Maryland, and then do you have I know that you said you only spent a few years down there, right?
Right.
Now, did you do any sort of Halloween?
Not really. No, it wasn't. I did like I said in front of my little condo. For whatever.
Yeah.
But otherwise, when I was in Maryland, I was a full-time clown and magician.
Wow. And that's what you did. What did you do before you did any sort of? You said that was whenever I had a somewhat regular job.
So right out of high school, my dad owned a hobby shop when I was in high school, and then again he was ill, so that closed only a couple years after I was out of high school. I moved across the street to work at a bus station convenience store, cigar store kind of place that I'd grown up in anyway because my best friend's dad owned it.
Okay. So
I worked there for 3 years, and then then I was doing the custom van thing of the 70s and 80s, right? And I had a show van and was going to Coliseum shows and all like that.
Like Cheech and Chong's van.
No, this was cool stuff, like hot rod stuff.
Oh, I thought, okay,
yeah. Hardcore.
Yeah, you didn't have rug. You're not talking about putting rugs on your dashboards and stuff.
No, it would be like tufted, expensive velvet. And,
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fancy gull wing doors that opened up like the old Mercedes, and all the
Jeez.
crazy stuff. Well, one of the guys in the van club owned a stained glass studio,
Oh, wow.
and we worked on this one van that was a real national show winner, where it had stained glass accents all inside it and all like that. And I'm like, man, I'd like to learn how to do that. That's cool. And I ended up leaving the convenience store and going to work for the glass studio for years.
No way.
Yeah, it was so that was the sort of real job.
You did you've done, you do stained glass? You know how to do-
We had one of the accounts, like those big 200-piece lamps that you used to see in every Applebee there. That was, we did all those.
Wow. That's so wild.
Yeah, Asbury Park, New Jersey, home of Bruce Springsteen, 2 blocks off of the beach, 2 blocks off of the boardwalk and the Stone Pony. That's where the studio was.
Man, do you ever do any of it anymore?
No, it's too messy and space taking up to
you
really.
need a lot of areas, different tools.
Yeah.
I've seen random people that I follow, like it seems like that's like, people are getting into rugs again, making their own rugs, and I see people doing a lot of stained glass now
it's
too.
awesome.
It is
I loved it. It was very creative, very good.
definitely wild. So after Maryland, what happens?
What happens is,
You come back here?
yeah, because I was on the road so much doing clown convention, I ended up, because of the costuming again, I ended up teaching makeup and costuming and traveling the country a lot.
Yeah.
So Maryland's expensive. So by being out here, it was a good place to hunker down for the winter.
Yeah.
And if I wasn't around all the time, it was cheaper out here.
That makes sense.
I love that. Yeah, you could pay. That condo was expensive. You could pay, I don't know, $1,000 for a 600. Even back then, $1,000 for a 600 square foot apartment,
That's
because it was right
insane.
halfway between Baltimore and DC. So
Yeah.
it was,
Costly.
yeah, very costly.
You get way more up here for that price. Now, whenever you were, you said you were clowning and everything like that, it's like, how many years did you do that?
I did it even once we were doing the castle.
So like that was like a regular
I didn't really
thing.
stop clowning until 97, 98.
So you spent some time doing that.
Yeah, and I actually still did a little bit here and there. Like one of our characters, Taliesin, he's the person I met that lived out here. There was a clown, a wonderful clown, and he still clowned full time as a business, and made props. And he was doing the family nights at Ponderosa's and this and that, and he was still on the circuit teaching. So every once in a while he'd be on the road and not here, and so I'd drag out my stuff and go sub for him. And
Wow.
so I think I was doing still spotty once in a while things until 2005 or 6 probably.
Ain't that so weird, like, to think about, like, the family nights places, and, like, whenever you had that sort of, like, performer going around to table. I just interviewed a magician, Lee Terbosic, the other day, and, like, he started as, like, I think he said he was, like, 13, but that's where he started at a Pizza Hut, and the one over by Century 3, and he would go to table, and, like, that's what it was, but now you would never even, it's such a weird thing to even think about that now. Definitely bizarre. Now clowning, like you're doing what is elaborate on what clowning means.
I was definitely a traditional ringling styled clown.
Like juggling,
Yeah,
the whole
I did
deal.
balloon twisting, I did face painting, I did the birthday party thing, I did all that kind of stuff. I mean, when I did a birthday party, I started off with face painting some of the kids beforehand.
Yeah.
Then I'd work that and start do a little magic show, and then we would do some balloon animals afterwards.
Wow. That's really awesome. Whole life of
And a lot of
performing.
those skills, you've probably run into Dr. Belfry here.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a Ringling Brothers trained clown.
Really?
He actually went to the Ringling Brothers School, class of 87.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Wow. That's I couldn't even imagine all that.
So it's real traditional clowning.
Yeah, I get it.
It's not. That's why we don't have clowns at the castle, because
Yeah.
they're bad for the clown business. Horror clowns are bad for the real clown business.
Yeah.
Now it's hip to hate clowns or be scared of clowns, and sadly, I think it's because of all my brother haunts out there. We had Stephen King novels back then to be scary clowns. I get it. We had John Wayne Casey back then. I get it. But the society is now like, oh, clowns are creepy. Oh, clowns are this. Yeah, good clowns aren't.
How old were you when Pennywise? How old were you when it came out, though?
I was already an adult, but
That's
was
what I mean.
certainly
It's like-
clowning. Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
No.
Took a hit with.
I don't like it because I mean I've always had a weird fear of clowns, but it's because I think it came out what year? Like I had to see that whenever I was like 4 or 5. Like that's where it comes from. But it's like I get what you're saying. Like it's hip to hate clowns. Like you hear that way more. That's like a cultural thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everyone hates clowns, and yeah, I guess I never really thought about that here. It's like you don't have any clowns here, but every
and
other.
as a clown, that's wrong. You should only hate mimes.
Yeah,
kidding. Love the mimes. Kidding.
Now, whenever you're, trying to, come out here and establish this, and like how does that process come up?
Well, when we first moved here, I was still doing clown stuff and being on the road, like I said. Right?
Yeah.
But we were still doing all the fanish conventions and the masquerades and all like that. So we were still doing totally non-clown stuff.
Yeah, but
right?
still,
the more clowning I was doing, the more edgy or serious or whatever my other stuff got, just as balance in life. A little yin and yang balance is good, right?
Yeah. And every Halloween is a extravagant thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And
it just got incredibly out of hand. It's like a sitcom.
Yeah.
Where you watch Tim Allen decorate, and every Halloween show on Tim Allen's show is crazy, or Roseanne is crazier and crazier and crazier.
Those are the best episodes of Tool Time ever.
Yeah,
the Halloween ones. Now, whenever you said you got that apartment, and that was the first like building that you bought for the haunt.
Big time pro haunt. Yep.
Now, whenever you did this, you said you spent a couple years there, and then you moved to back home, and then you break out of there, and then where's the next spot?
The next spot is down the street from here.
Okay.
It was an office building. I needed to move out of Bellsville, and everything has been serendipity with the castle. The castle has taken me where it wants to go.
Yeah.
I mean, with the people I've met, with the places I've ended up being, with the whatever, I just do what I do, and the castle and the customers, to be honest, have taken me and taken the castle where it wants to be.
So how does Monessen end up?
Monessen ends up with a longtime customer in Bellsville says, "Hey, I work over at the Savini School. You should come by and I'll give you a nice tour."
Ah, okay.
Okay, I'll take a nice tour. I've been there before, but, whatever.
Yeah.
Good, bad, sideways fish. It's an art school, so some people are beautiful artists and some people are like, sorry.
Yeah.
But the teachers are all great, and they're where everybody works their ass off over there. So, yeah, I'll take a tour. I'd like to see it. So the ladies give me a tour, and she goes, "Oh, can you just wait here for a second? I need to go do something." Sure. Well, she leaves me with next to the student services office where they, try to get the kids jobs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the lady who's usually in there wasn't there, and her assistant or whatever was filling in. And this lady named Bonnie. And she goes, Are you the guy from Castle Blood? I'm like, yeah. She goes, "Come here in my office for a minute." I'm like, all right, what I do now? And I go, "Yeah." She goes, I work with the city of Monessen on the community development thing, and there's this new thing. They want to try and turn Monessen into an arts community and revitalization, and they're looking for people to... I heard that you might be moving out of Bellsville. Do you have a place yet? And I had already put offers in Charleroi and Brownsville and some other places on other buildings.
Yeah.
And, God, I'm glad I didn't go to Brownsville.
Yeah,
Everybody in Brownsville is great. Glad I didn't go to Brownsville.
Yeah, it's like, how did you even get that idea of where to choose an area?
Well, again, Bonnie says to me, "I need you to talk to the city administrator here." And I'm like, I don't want to come to Monessen.
I'm not even talking about Monessen. I'm talking about, you were saying you had offers in a Brownsville or whatever. It's like, what's your mindset whenever you're like, all right, we have to find a new place whenever we're moving out of Bealsville? It's like...
It's really not that complicated. It's looking for places for rent and places for sale and seeing what might work, and having to scour hundreds of them to see what might work.
Yeah, but I mean, you don't have any sort of idea of I want to have it in this area for this reason. It's just basically whatever's cost effective and what's available.
In some ways, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, in my dream, I always wanted to be on the Route 19 corridor, but that has long passed.
Yeah.
With how built up and everything it is now.
That makes sense. I was just curious on how you were deciding on Charleroi
we were open
or
for anything. We were open for places that would have cost me $20,000 to go in. We were open to places that were going to cost me $250,000 to go in.
Yeah.
Just
whatever fit.
And I had some financial backing where we maybe could have done some of the bigger ones.
Yeah. But it ended up Monessen.
It ended up Monessen because Bonnie, who ended up being a cast member, it's funny, hooked me up with the powers that be, in Monessen, and they said, yeah, we'd love to have you here. We want to build an amphitheater. We want to do this. We want to do that. And we have some empty buildings we could stick you in until we get everything else up and rolling, and you can have a permanent built from scratch location. And I'm like, huh. They're like, we'll give you a sweetheart deal on the rent, and you'll be there, and, you know, whatever. And do you want to do this? And I'm like, well, shit, I think I have to.
Yeah.
You know, and they kind of hooked me up with getting one of the cheap houses that are always for sale in Monessen, and it ended up that they got voted out of office because some of their plans were a little radical for some of the people in town. It was what every other city does to revitalize their old waterfront area. It's a shame. But the new administration, who was not happy with the deal I had at the other building, and it was a city-owned building, so they were in their rights to want it back, right, I guess, helped me get this place.
Huh.
And like the newspaper said, oh, the new mayor evicts Castle Blood was the headline on the paper. I'm like, yeah, technically, sort of, they didn't, and they told me to get out, and I didn't fight them, and because I didn't fight them and I worked with them, they turned to being friendly-ish to us.
Yeah.
And
because you weren't being an
idiot about it.
Yeah.
Right. Because I could have taken him to court, but I would have never opened again.
Yeah.
It would have been in court forever, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Right. So why do that? Why have the negative energy?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right? So I told the universe, help me out here. I'll do whatever you want, but we need to survive. And the city got me this place.
And this used to be a running funeral home up until 2009?
Yep.
And, I mean, like, whenever you got this place, when did you end up moving in here?
We moved in here in, let's see, May of 2014, and we actually opened that October.
So May 2014 here. How many years were you in the office building?
2.
2 years there.
So think of it. We had to totally tear down and rebuild the haunt twice in 3 years.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Indeed.
That's absolutely. Now, how big was that place compared to this?
Small.
It was smaller?
Yeah.
Okay.
Much smaller.
Now, whenever you come out here and they, did they approach you and say, we have this creepy ass funeral home that's about to go under?
The first administration I dealt with eventually wanted us to have this too. They thought, and we thought, well, if they build you a big castle along the river as part of the amphitheater complex,
yeah,
that's great. But you could have this place because you could live upstairs like they did when it was a funeral home.
Yeah.
And the ground floor could be like a costume shop and a makeup studio again. And, I'm like, well, that sounds great.
Yeah.
But it took years to get this building through the county and to be able to get it cheap.
Yeah.
Right. So the administration's changed in between. So the amphitheater stuff by the river went away, but this place still eventually came available.
Yeah.
And it happened to come available at the right damn time.
Why did this funeral home go under?
The guy passed away and the family didn't keep up the business.
Huh.
That's all.
That's interesting. And now, if this was done in 2009, you got this for 2014, what happened with those 5 years?
It was urban scavenged and almost destroyed. And if I hadn't have taken it, it probably would have had been torn down in 3 or 4 years.
I mean, people were like breaking in here and like, know.
Oh, it wasn't even locked up good.
Oh, really?
Yeah. When we
wow.
came for our first tour, we just walked in and there were piles of empty Sudafed boxes in the corner and
no way.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, right?
Yeah, that's
and,
crazy.
Stuff like that. And we would have done it anyway because it's an old building, but all the plumbing was gone, all the wiring was gone, everything was gone.
Yeah, people scrapping
holes knocked in the walls because people were looking for did the old man stash money in the heating ducts?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. It was trashed pretty hard. I'd be like, oh, you got a funeral parlor. Did you get 20 caskets with it? We got nothing.
Yeah, this was. It was pretty tore up in here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, geez. So you were in here in March. It's like, what is the mindset behind like building this place out? Obviously, you had Castle Blood already. The storyline, all the characters. How do you tackle a beast this big?
Well, it was only because I had built 24 or so haunts around the country under the Castle Blood or as a subcontractor for Boneyard Productions that I was used to walking into a building and having to make something out of it. So the problem-solving puzzleness of it how my brain works like that served us well here.
I guess that makes sense.
You know, the
Is there a lot of
managers,
codes and stuff you have to worry about in the beginning?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Oh,
I would assume
Well, we had
so.
to do all new electric, all new everything, so the inspectors have to come in and
Do they help you out because this place is like this? Like do you get helped out from the city as they said they were before? You know, or do they kind of just like, you know, say this place is available, you could buy it and wash
this
your
place is
hands?
available. No, they hooked me up with here's the electrician and inspectors you should use. Here's the guy with the dumpster
okay.
you should use. They helped me out that way.
Yeah.
They didn't help me out. They helped me out financially because this place was incredibly cheap
Yeah.
because it was going to go away.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You know.
Okay.
And they want it back on the taxes rolls, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So they helped me out that way, obviously. And it made a good thing, even though everybody thinks that may or may not have been my friend like these other mayors have been. But we worked together and it was fine.
Yeah.
And he made sure that we worked together with the fire chiefs and with everything else.
Yeah,
and,
didn't
and the
make it
police.
hard on you.
No.
That's good at
They
least.
didn't. They didn't.
Now-
And he still was the first one in we run the Halloween parade in the city. Every single mayor we've worked with has always been more than willing to be the first person in the parade. And,
That's great.
you know, it's all good.
So you start tackling this. Obviously, you have some experience in it. You kind of know what to do, what not to do. Now, what's like the first order of business? You just clean all this shit out?
Yeah.
And just like get everything cleaned out?
Yeah. We as we were cleaning it out, we go, let's try and figure out what one or two of the cooler rooms are going to be.
Yeah.
And let's try and get them as close as we can quick so we'll feel good about it.
Yeah.
And when other people are coming in to see what we're doing, when inspectors are coming in to see what we're
Everyone
doing,
else is gonna see the
everybody else is
potential.
going to see, oh, yeah, no, this is the pro job. This is fine. We don't got to worry about these idiots.
What was the first place you built up?
This room we're in right now.
Oh, wow.
And then Gravely's office.
Now, was this like were the walls in here and everything, or did you build these in?
walls behind us here, no, you see they don't go to the ceiling?
Yeah.
That's kind of a fire safety thing, too.
Okay.
So if anything happens, smoke can flow around and not can collect down at the ground level, right?
Yeah.
That's why they don't go to the ceiling.
Wow.
So all of those we put in.
Huh. Now, in the beginning, like, did you have, like, as you're approaching a building like this, do you, like, draw out a sketch of, like, how you want everything?
We have to have the plans so we can give the inspectors. We have to have the plan of the
No,
fire.
I get that part, but
Yeah.
I'm talking about you as far as, like, how you're going to build the story out and everything. Like, do you have this pretty planned out
Yes.
on what you want everything to be?
Yeah, within a month or so, we had it may take us years and years to get this.
Yeah.
Like the lab. The first time you were here, we didn't have the lab.
I know where it is now.
Right, yeah, but those rooms were there.
Yeah.
We just closed them off and nobody knew they were there. 'Cause we didn't
okay.
have time to get to them.
Okay, that makes sense.
That kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
we knew what we wanted to do everywhere.
Ah,
and we
okay.
wrote out sort of a rough idea of what would be where and how it would work. And to be honest, some things still aren't finished to my liking, you know, after all these years. And we've changed some rooms around. What was the library is now the museum room, and you know, the library moved to where the dining room used to be, and you know, stuff like after a couple of years, you got to change things up some, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. That's that's pretty wild. So you're just constantly working for, 6 months, just ripping through all this and doing all this, getting it prepared for October because you did all this.
My wife's Canadian. Those first 2 years here, because of immigration status stuff, she was stuck in Canada and wasn't even here with me, so that was rough.
Wow.
She started with me in Bellsville. Half of the reason that I moved out of Bellsville was my divorce lawyer said, well, you can have the house in Bellsville or you can keep the castle business.
Yeah.
So my ex got the house in Bellsville and we kept the castle business.
Yeah.
And that was part of the move to Monessen part. But then as we were going to get married and all that kind of stuff, and we filed all the paperwork right and spent about $10,000 in 6 years doing immigration. For the first 2 years here, she wasn't allowed in the country while the paperwork was in process.
That's crazy.
So that was hard. But I also had our first year in this building was already our 22nd year.
Yeah.
So I had a slew of people that knew what I needed them to do.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I say, okay, this is going to be this kind of room. Here's the walls. You've been painting rocks for me for 15 years. Go do this.
Huh.
So Sarah Black, Chris Handa, Bill Baldwin, my daughter, And then lots of local kids that would want to learn how to do stuff. We were here almost every day for 6 months.
Wow. Now the opening here, it's like, what was the response to it? Did you think it was a great opening? Did you get a good response? Did you get a good, turnout from the community?
Opening night here, we were all dying. We're all sweaty. We're all crazy because we were still building up until 4:00 that day.
I bet.
Because it was just so much to tackle so quick.
Yeah.
And we all managed to towel ourselves off and put our costumes on and put our makeup on, and we opened the front door to open, and there was nobody there.
Really?
Not a single person. We ended up doing okay that night, and we had the first year here was poor attendance-wise. We were working so hard and spending every penny we had to build the place.
You couldn't market it.
We didn't spend enough time marketing it.
Yeah.
There's people in the valley that still think we're in Bellsville 11 years later.
Oh, I know people that have never heard about this place.
Right.
And
we've always been such a small little mom and pop theatrical that we've tried TV and it failed us. We've tried all kinds of stuff, regular what you would think is normal advertising, and it's never. We still get customers one handshake at a time.
Yeah.
I mean, as weird as that sounds, but
that makes sense though. I mean, like.
How do you describe this place?
That's what
in marketing, you should never ever describe your product by what it's not. So it's really hard. Well, what's Castle Blood like? Well, we don't have chainsaws. Well, you're already telling somebody a negative.
Yeah.
Because you're boggling their mind with, well, what do you mean you don't have chainsaws? Well, now you're talking about chainsaws instead of your own haunt.
The way I describe this is a dinner show without dinner.
That's good.
That's the best way. That's the quickest way, because once you try to like really comb through it and describe it in detail, I get caught up on things because it's hard to describe this. It's not just like, people, whenever we brought my friend and his wife and their kid, he was like, oh, is it going to be like crazy scary? I don't know if he could handle it. I was like, it's not like, when you come here, it's not like you're going to get, the shit scared out of you. You're going to get scared, but it's not just relying on that. And that's what it's hard to communicate it, because you don't want to communicate that in a way that sounds like, oh, well, it's not scary. I'm not going to go to that place. Right. But, the right people got to come here for the reasons.
We have incredibly when I say the first year we were here, we have incredibly loyal customers that are lifers.
Yeah.
So our attendance was really poor the first year here. I would say 75% of them had already been to some form of the castle, if not all forms of the castle before.
Ah, okay.
So our regulars found us.
Yeah.
We just didn't get the constant influx of new people.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Like, I swear I could open up in the middle of a cornfield one year and 1,000 people would show up just to see what the hell we did with it.
100%. Yeah.
What are they going to do? What are they going to do with that?
Yeah.
Let's go see.
No, it's going to be interesting. Can't wait to see what that's like.
We were an escape room before there was such a thing, right?
Yeah, I guess
We were a walking magic show before there was such a thing. It's like, we'll take a magic show, an escape room, and live actors and put them in the Disney mansion instead of riding through on a doom buggy.
Yeah.
It's like, but how do you describe that in a way that makes sense to people?
Yeah, in a nice snackable, few words.
Yep.
And it's hard to do that. That makes a lot of sense.
That's when we get sassy and sell T-shirts and say chainsaws are stupid.
That's a good marketing too. I got one of them. Got a nice red one.
100 Acre Manor used to have stickers that said Castle Blood chainsaws are stupid on their chainsaw blades.
That's good too. I mean, is there a good camaraderie between haunts?
For the most part, yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It's the owners lead the way.
Yeah.
So if the owners get along, everything is fine.
That's good.
And some ownership has changed in some haunts over the years, like Demon House. The family that owns it now, they're aces. They're right across the river from us, right?
Yeah.
The guy that started it belongs in jail.
Yeah.
For many different things over the course of his life. And so do some of his managers. But the guy that owns it now is awesome.
When did this guy get into it?
5 years? Well, he worked there as a kid. He actually was one of my scare actors in the old Bentleyville building, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
And he went to the Savini School, and he got all trained up, and he went to Florida and was working there. And when Demon House went up for sale, he came home and bought it.
Jeez.
And he and his wife, it's Chris and Veronica, they do a great job, and it's much scarier than ours, and it's much more brutal than ours and all like that, but they're wonderful people. They send people our way. We send people their way now. We hang out.
That's great.
It's all good. You know?
Yeah, that's really cool.
We've had to do a whole lot of fixing with our cast members because all of our cast members grew up with, you're supposed to hate that other haunt.
Yeah.
Well, the owners don't hate each other. They're fine. They send their little kids over to us on our matinees.
Oh, that's cool.
You know, stuff like that, right?
is.
So, yeah, it's all good.
So the second, third year, this place obviously starts getting to be
Good
heard
again.
of.
Starts getting good again.
Yeah. I mean, anytime I come here, it's like you always got a good line out here. Now, what is like, you know, as someone who's like building up this haunt and you know, when you first do it, if you consider what we have here 100% now, what was the percentage of the space used whenever you first opened?
75, 80%.
Yeah, so-
Outside was really bleak the first 2 years.
I'd say
The cemetery and Crowhaven and the Witches' Woods and all that was bleak.
yeah, I don't remember like the first couple years that I've been here, but
Right.
like,
you
know,
still had to walk through out there because you had to get into that and get into the farewell room and the gift shop, right?
yeah.
So it was mostly just cemetery and stuff and weaving around and roaming monsters to shoo you the right way.
Yeah.
And then we started, again, dealing with that. We put up a couple of the walls that would delineate the areas, and, you know, that helped that. And
Now, while you're doing this and you're like, you know, coming up with all these, you know, puzzles and these like the storyline for each year, because each year has a different storyline.
And the puzzles have really grown and changed too, because my wife, Dawn, is an insane game master.
Oh yeah.
I mean, she was the Canadian Grand Champion Dungeons and Dragons player 2 years in a row.
No way.
Yeah, way. Giant 6-foot trophies and all that. I've seen them.
She still play?
Yes, she's playing tonight.
Man.
Yep.
Do you play?
No, I do not. And everybody thinks that's insane. They go, "You're a dungeon master for a living." I go, "I know, so I don't need to play."
I know, but you look like the most iconic, you know, sort of
know.
wizard.
I know.
You would fit right in it.
Yep.
Was that ever in your like wheelhouse?
Only when my dad owned a hobby shop and we used to sell the figures.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. That's really cool
But,
too.
yeah, but no, I've never even watched a game happen. Never.
Interesting.
Yeah, a lot of the cast members do. Obviously, they're all totally into it.
It all kind of coincides.
It does,
you know, all that fun stuff.
Yep.
Now, as you're like building this up and you're improving each year, you know, what did you find to be like the most difficult thing? Like, I don't feel that you have do you ever have a difficult time getting people to work?
Oh, absolutely.
Really?
Well, because we're volunteer, because we do such a small throughput, there's no money really.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, where else are you going to go for an hour-long actual intimate show and only pay $20?
Yeah, for sure.
But because we're sort of kid-friendly, I don't want to crush families.
Yeah.
You know, even my own actors don't realize it sometimes. I was telling somebody the other day, there was maybe your age, right? And they've used to come when they were a kid in Bellsville, and now they found us and they bring their kids.
Yeah.
And they're going, I go, it's different. They go, "You're still so reasonably priced." I'm like, "Yeah, when you were a kid in high school, did you come with your family?" And she says, "No, I came with my friends." Right. So like 4 of your friends and you, 5 people came, right? Yeah. Each dad gave you $20 for a haunt ticket and a hot dog.
Yeah.
Right. Now you are bringing you, your husband, and your 2 kids. That's $80.
Yeah.
Even at only my price. Right? It used to be, no, you as a teenager would just go. So hitting dad for money. No. Now you got to hit dad for close to $100.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So how can I raise my prices? If we're sort of family-ish,
Yeah.
how can I raise my prices a bunch more? How can I? Yeah, I mean, I could.
Yeah, but you're not an asshole.
Well,
You
thank
know,
you.
in so many words. I mean, like, it's a tough thing to talk about, because in the end, you're in these businesses to, you know, because you love it, but like realistically, money keeps the lights on,
Correct.
keeps the things
I still
working.
make costumes and I still make props.
Yeah, so you're doing this.
And
so,
my poor wife Dawn still has a little part-time sort of real job,
And-
which
and-
is funny because she's the obituary writer for the newspaper.
Really?
She drives a hearse, works in a haunt, and is the obituary writer. How funny is that?
No way. That would be such an interesting job. But it's like, you know, you could just bump up these prices like all the other places do. But, you know, I don't know. I feel like that this whole this whole community you've built over here, you could really tell that it's much more than just like, getting some money out of some people, because you guys kind of go above and beyond in the first place. So it I don't know, as a customer,
the actors stick with me because they know I'm not dredging thousands and thousands of millions of dollars out of it.
Yeah, and it's like,
of course, we take money out of the business. I'm here every damn day. I do have bills to pay.
Yeah,
but I still have to have all these side hustles just to keep my house out of sheriff's sale, to be honest. It's just, especially in the last few years of the pandemic, right?
Yeah, I guess it makes sense. And that's not even something that like we even touched on, is like the whole world of the pandemic. It's like, were you closed that year, the 2020?
Nope.
Why not? Because it was outside?
No, because we were so intensely harsh on our standards of what we were doing and how people could come through. Like, the vaccination wasn't here yet.
Yeah.
But you had to be masked, and that's when we really started selling the reserve time tickets.
Okay.
So you didn't have to go in with people you didn't know.
Yeah.
The games changed. The props changed. It wasn't a whole lot of touchy-touchy. It was more thinky-thinky.
Yeah.
Anything you had to touch had to be metal or plastic, something we could wipe down and clean in between groups, not wood that may be
porous.
Right, stuff like that.
Yeah.
We had the sanitizing stations everywhere. We had the this, we had the that. And to be honest, half of the things we did for that, we've now kept because it made things so easier. It made it, the show didn't have to change if we killed ourselves on the administration level.
Yeah.
To do everything.
Huh.
So, and to be honest, that first year of the pandemic, we were down, of course, but we weren't down like horrible, because Kennywood, 100 Acre, all the giant haunts where they have so many people, it would just be a cesspool of people getting sick. They all closed.
That's a good point.
So us in Demon House Demon House actually went up because they're the scary haunts. So people that only want scary all went there.
Yeah.
Good for them. It really helped them out.
You didn't have to.
But I didn't have to close.
Yeah, you didn't have to close.
We didn't open for Christmas that year. We didn't open for the following St. Patrick's Day. But we did open for the Summerween show in June.
Yeah.
So we lost multiple shows. So that's multiple. That's a lot of money.
But you made it work.
But we made it work. Yeah.
Wow, that is just crazy.
Yeah, we had a limited cast here too. We didn't have as many people. A lot of the cast members put on their makeup and got dressed at home. Came here, put their mask on, performed, and went home. So there was no camaraderie in the cast room.
Yeah.
We would cater instead of having all the castle moms make stuff in crock pots.
Yeah.
One cast member made bag lunches at home and brought them all in so people could just grab food and leave.
Wow.
So again, if we killed ourselves on the administration level, the show would be fine.
Yeah, adapt and overcome with it.
Yep.
It's crazy, that whole like period of time with anyone's business. You know, I talk to anyone about it.
But you really realize how not everybody remember the artists got us through because you had things to no, we learned how totally unessential we are.
Yeah.
It's like no. I can sew. I was sewing all those crazy novelty masks for a year and selling those.
Yeah,
so
I
that
guess
helped
so.
a little bit.
Do you think that having the actors and the guests wear masks, do you think that there was a negative to that? Like,
No. We have an older crowd. You've seen our crowds here.
Yeah.
They're older. The reason we were down was because we have an older crowd. They were worried and didn't want to come out. Some people said, you're the only haunt we're going to this year because we know you'll have this under control.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
I'm talking about even more of the performance. Like, and the reason I ask that is like, I feel like, sometimes I people are wearing teeth, fangs, or whatever like that. I like to be able to you kind of like see what people are saying, reading their lips and everything.
For sure, yeah.
And if you're at a distance, it takes away. Like, that's one thing that I've noticed about these masks.
Yeah.
I'm always saying, what'd you say?
Yep.
Because it's like, I don't know. I guess I never realized like how much I relied on.
Well, you also lose their acting. You also lose half of the facial movement, half of the emotion.
Yeah,
right?
that's true. That's a good point.
Yeah, so it was tough.
Yeah. Now, whenever you're coming up with a story, what's the process of this? Like, do you guys all sit down in a room and...
It changes. I used to be pretty OCD.
Yeah.
This is what we're doing, or get the hell out kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
But as my daughter got older, she started writing. As Dawn came on board. She started writing. I may still be hey, I think we should do this. And I may be the one that does the final typing of the script, which you can tell because of all the typos.
Yeah.
And needs to be proofread, that my wife, the newspaper person, yells at me for, that I don't let her proofread it. I'm just saying that publicly, honey. I understand, and now the world knows. So if they see Facebook ads that are mistakes, they see anything, it's all on me.
Anything I write on my phone, I give to my wife at first, and she reads through it and goes, you need all this, take this out. This is a run-on.
So if there's an anniversary or if there's something like that, or, you've noticed probably over the years we've kind of had little social messages in our shows the last few years and stuff like that. I mean, we lost a dear loved one a couple years ago, and we kind of did. Last year's show was a little on the mental health and be kind to each other. Yeah. But you can still come here and it's just Halloween. Yeah. People don't have to even notice that. If you know, you know. If you don't, who cares, right? Yeah. It's that kind of stuff. So we'll come up with an overall theme of, wouldn't it be cool if, I don't know if you come every year, the Death Becomes You year, that was all Dawn's idea. And the idea was, wouldn't it be cool if every room was a different way that the humans could die? I'm like, well, A, that's dark. B, we could make it funny, because the darker it is, the funnier it is. Yeah. And C, what do you got in mind? And she's like, well, they need to be electrocuted in the lab.
Oh, I do remember that one. Yeah. Was that the one with the switches?
Yeah. 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 So stuff like that, right? So it's like, oh, yeah, that's pretty cool. Okay. Yeah. In the cemetery, they had to get in a coffin and get closed in. Yeah. And like in the Victorian times, there was like the little safety bell because they were worried about burying people alive. Yep. So it was dark in the coffin, and you had to reach around and find the string to ring the bell, so we'd let you out.
Yeah, that's the best.
Right. So it was all stuff like that, and I'm like, yeah, it was pretty high concept, and I was worried, and she was like, no, this will work, trust me, and like everybody got on board and like, yeah, this is going to work, this is great. So she, for the 30th anniversary, it was kind of her idea, was the stepping off point for this year too. Which I won't tell you what's going to happen. But
I don't want to know anything.
The name of the tour is The Chosen.
Okay.
And I will only tell you the show is entirely about what we have learned from you guys over 30 years.
Wow. I can't wait.
So that's a nice little teaser. That's the deal.
Well, that's why I like it, because it's like every year you come back and it's always different. It's like you know what to expect as far as like, you know that you're going to have some games, you're going to have some interactions, you're going to need to find some talismans and, be able to get through. But it's always different, and it's fun to, like I've said 6 times, just being interactive is what I enjoy. I don't want to just walk through. I like to be able to participate. That adds just a different level. Do you know of other places that kind of implement your style, or you guys?
Well, they try, but they do too many people to do what we do. Yeah. Like an escape room, the escape room things we do, that style of trick or whatever, we still have people in the room with you. Escape rooms aren't set up for that, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
They don't want anybody around. They just throw you in the room, and maybe you have a voice of God on a microphone telling you something, but that's it. Yeah. So they're not going to do what we do because it totally increases their overhead.
That's a good point.
To have more people. It takes us 20 years to do as many people as 100 Acre Manor does in 1 year.
Really?
Really.
Jeez.
Really. Because our throughput is so slow, because we are so specialized that the more magic and gamey we got, the less these screaming 15 to 25-year-olds we get. Yeah. And we weeded them out a long time ago, not on purpose, because their money spent like everybody else. Yeah. But they weren't satisfied with what they were doing because they want to scream on the hayride. Yeah. And I respect that. I like to scream on the hayride too. No problem. And that's when we increased from 3 minutes to 5 minutes. It's like, well, if we're not going to be doing those kind of numbers of people, let's really give them a show.
Yeah, let's really lean into it.
Right. Let's almost double the time they're in each room. The games can be more complicated. The magic tricks in between can be more fancy or whatever. Even the ones that are almost like storytelling, you can really get into it then if you have... because even with 5-minute throughput, we still only have 3 minutes with you. We got to get you up, get you moved to the next one.
Yeah.
You got to come in, you got to settle down and sit down. You got to, so.
That's cool to think about that. It's just interesting to think about like the process in which you think about it and how you have to like kind of incorporate everything. It's also probably better on the actors to not have to just sit there and scream every second. Your voice is probably a little bit thankful to be able.
Yeah, we do have some people that are just scare actors, although they've worked sets and they're awesome. We do have a couple of actors that are good at scares, so when I need them to do scares, no matter how good they are in a set, I need them to do scares.
Yeah.
A 15-year-old, 95-pound girl is not going to scream the same amount or be as aggressive the same amount as a 30-year-old, 300-pound guy.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I'm going to be screaming.
Right. So, that's how it is. So
that's what you get.
And to be honest, you need a different mindset to be a scare actor.
Yeah.
And some people can't flick the switch between both. Some people can. And we're so theatrical that a lot of people that come to us as new people have been customers, and so they want to be actors.
Yeah.
And I don't blame them. That's fun. I usually make them do scares for their first night or two so they understand the animations, the scares, and the sets have to work together and have to blend together. We write the animations and we write the scares to coexist with the sets on purpose.
Yeah.
Most of the time, the things the scare actors say have to do with the sets. If not a clue, at least it makes sense what they're saying.
Yeah, there's like a through line.
Right. I mean, we never scream, get out. We never scream, hurry up. We never scream, whatever. The first scare in the haunt, they just say, welcome.
Yeah.
It's loud. It comes from out of nowhere. It still does the job.
Yeah.
But you're
Sets the
just
tone.
getting here, so we say welcome.
Yeah, sets the tone.
Right. That's the whole deal here. We live here. We're welcoming you into our house.
Yeah.
It may be a screwy, messed up house, but we are welcoming you into the house.
It is. It's a fantastic place. Now, talk to me a little bit about, when it's off season, like what goes into this place during, the months of, May, June. Like, do you ever have any downtime where this place is just closed up for a month or two?
Well, January and February, that's it.
It's just closed up.
Well, I'm still here to check on it.
Yeah.
And, I live close by, so I'm here almost every day, even in January and February.
Just doing small things. You're
and
tinkering.
It's cold, so I don't do a whole lot. But, if it snows, I got to make sure the sidewalk's clear.
Yeah, that makes sense,
all
too.
that kind of regular business stuff, right?
Now, what's the upkeep?
A week after Halloween is over, we start decorating for Christmas.
I guess so.
Then we have to tear Christmas down at some point because middle of March, we got St. Patrick's Day. And then as soon as we're done with St. Patrick's Day, we probably have some ghost hunts. And then, guess what? In June is Summerween. And then Summerween happens, and all of a sudden we're building Halloween.
Yins are pretty spread out through the year.
Yeah.
Now, what is like I know that you do you do pretty much all this stuff yourself, like you have a team that you're doing all this stuff yourself. Now, what are the biggest, hurdles that you gotta, that you're facing?
Funding.
That's
That's
it?
really our only thing.
Yeah.
I have incredibly talented cast members. I mean, everybody goes, I'd like to just come in one day and build something for you. No. We build towards the script, and only cast members build stuff.
Yeah.
Not all the cast members build stuff because they don't want to, and that's totally fine.
Yeah.
But I don't have a separate building crew. Once in a while, I've had people come in to help me with something because they have specialized skills.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, most of them end up being cast members. But 90% of everything here is built by a cast member.
Yeah.
Now, we buy stuff, but a lot of stuff we buy, we have to tear down and rebuild so it is like the way we want it. We buy things and we consider them raw materials. Even if we buy a mask, well, we're going to repaint it, or we're going to build it into a figure, or we're going to do something else so it's not as, it has to be right for us.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Which is a pain in the butt, but that's what we do, and that's the fun. To be honest, that's the fun part. When we're performing, we're all in different rooms and we're not together.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I was going to say,
So
like,
when we're building is when we get to hang out together and
Yeah.
bust chops and have fun and have dinner and have all that. It's when
Yeah.
we're building stuff.
that's cool. Do you tackle each area one at a time, or do you spread out?
No, we spread out. It's too much. Yeah, one at a time. We get in each other's way.
Yeah.
I mean, some people like to work alone. Some people like to work with somebody else. Some people want somebody else around because the ghosties are around and they don't want to work alone. You know, it all depends on how that's all going. So,
Looking at the curtain behind you, it's pulling in.
no, it's probably just because we have the fan on. It's probably
Yeah, it's
just
probably like that. It's probably like that. Now, like, what is so? What's the opening night?
October 7th.
Opening night is October 7th.
Mm-hmm.
What's the best way? Are you still selling everything online with the reserved times and everything?
Reserve time stuff is online. You can still, of course, just come to the door to the ticket booth and get a ticket. Yep.
Every night, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday?
Saturday, and Sunday. Yep.
What are the hours?
7 to 10. But when I say 10, we don't lock the doors at 10. So you need to be here by 10.
Yeah.
So 7 to 10 Friday and Saturday, 7 to 9 on Sundays and Halloween night.
Wow. What is? I mean, like, do you like? What's your life outside of this haunted house? It's like
I don't really almost have one anymore.
you live and breathe this, right?
Yeah.
Now, do you are you someone that like watches? You a TV watcher? Or are you someone
Yeah.
that watches like current horror movies and things like that?
Yeah.
Like, what's like the last scary movie you watched?
Through the pandemic, we watched everything. And
Yeah.
they kind of like blurred together now.
I know it's
Right?
I feel like I was almost tired of TV after a
Yeah,
while.
I mean, we watched a lot of series as much as movies, like all the crazy Korean zombie movies or zombie series, like the Train to Busan, the movie that's great.
yeah, like I watched that
Right. But
during
there's-
the pandemic, and
Yeah.
I've heard about it, but
Yeah.
it's probably up there in one of my top
And
threes
there was
of
a
all of them.
series that's like high school kid driven
Yeah,
zombie
Dead
thing.
Inside or
yeah,
whatever.
We're All Dead or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was cool.
Did you like that?
I did.
I didn't watch
thought
that yet.
I thought it could have been a couple episodes shorter.
Yeah,
But I think that about American Horror Story too. I think it's a little long sometimes.
yeah.
Although the American Horror Story anthology series, where it's just one story a week,
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Isn't that a newer one?
Yes, it's
yeah,
only been 2 seasons now, I think.
that's interesting. Yeah, there's all kinds of good stuff out to watch
Yeah.
now. I might go see a horror movie tonight. It's called Barbarian. Did you see previews for that?
Yeah.
I don't know what it'll be about, but we'll see. Or are you someone that gets to ever go experience other haunts? I mean,
Yeah, but especially with us not open until October 7th. We usually get to do the haunts that are open on Thursdays.
yeah.
And, well, I mean, some haunts around here, 100 Acre Manor and Demon House, and they're already open. Already
yeah, I
open.
guess so, yeah.
We'll be able to do Crawford School of Terror in Connellsville. We love those guys. And Allen's Hayride. We'll be able to do that before we even open. And then we'll try and hit 100 Acre Manor. Sometimes they do Thursdays and Wednesdays or whatever, so we'll do those midweek.
Yeah. That'll be cool.
Yeah, we'd love to. And we'd love it when they all come. A lot of them aren't open on Halloween this year because it's a Monday.
Is it on a Monday?
Yeah. So I have a feeling it's going to be party at the castle time for haunt actors from the whole area.
Well, that's good
happened
then.
a couple times over the years, like a Halloween on Tuesday. Everybody works the weekend. They're closed Monday, and they don't want to bother opening just for Tuesday.
Yeah.
But I'm hardcore. I'll open. I
Yeah.
don't care if I don't even have many cast members. I'll open.
Yeah.
And there have been times when it's just one big conga line of nothing but other haunt actors. It's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, this is your world for October and everything like that. It's you would hope that you would be able to get to experience that stuff. So that's good that you're able to find time for that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you have any sort of goals as a haunt owner? I ask people usually their goals for the future. It's like, do you have goals?
Well, I know people go, how long are you going to do this? I'm going to keep doing this as long as I'm physically able.
Yeah, why not, right?
Right. Yeah. It's a constant effort to just keep going.
Yeah.
So the goals are to try and find the motivation to keep the integrity and the continuity and the quality of the place up. The goal is to always I've built this crazy fantasy world for myself where I don't have to deal with the outside world as much as I can.
Yeah.
The pandemic changed my thoughts on that.
Yeah.
I had to. But I don't have to deal with the real world if I don't want to. And because of that, I've had a constant influx of 30 years of new people coming through, new ideas on all walks of life, right? Pros and cons, reds and blues, everything in the world comes through here as actors.
Yeah.
But I have a constant influx of younger people. So, like, just personally, I'm always introduced to younger music. I'm not just listening to old man radio because they have their music on when they're building something or doing something. You know? I have to keep it down a little bit on the foul language gangster rap outside because we live in a very diverse neighborhood here, and I don't think the old white guy in this creepy haunt having those kind of lyrics flooding out on the street is a good look for me.
That makes sense.
But it's whatever. When even 10, 12 years ago, when a new Taylor Swift song comes out, somebody in the castle's playing it.
Oh, I'm sure. There's a new album coming out next week. You'll probably be hearing about it.
My daughter was born the same year, so she has been a Swiftie her entire life, so I'm always exposed to that.
Oh, yeah.
But, so it's that, and I try to find things that inspire me. Like I mentioned the Southern California haunts or whatever.
Yeah.
A couple years ago on Amazon, I tripped across a documentary called Epic Home Haunts. And
Epic Home Haunts.
Yeah, it's a great one. I don't think it's free right now. I think you have to pay for it. But it introduced me to all these people, a couple of which I've seen on YouTube doing tutorials and stuff.
Yeah.
Hollywood Haunters, for example, they work in the film industry out there, and they do all kinds of crazy home haunt stuff because they work in the film industry.
Yeah.
Right? So they're amazing, these two people, this couple.
Where do you said we were talking about inspiration? Like, are you someone that like scours YouTube for like new types of things that you can incorporate?
Oh, absolutely. And now, to be honest, we've been here so long. The people that do those tutorials sometimes call us for input.
Wow.
Like there's this really nice guy, Derek, from Southern California. It's Van Oaks Prop Foundry. And he puts out a new Haunter how-to video every Saturday morning, year-round. Every Saturday morning.
All year?
All year.
Wow.
Now, sometimes it's marginally Haunter. It might skew over into Star Wars stuff.
Yeah.
But casting something and painting something is still casting something and painting something. Right?
Yeah.
So when he did his, our big concrete-looking statues, well, he did a little segment he did a show about that. Well, he actually was nice enough to contact us because he was inspired by the ones that we had that he'd seen online when he was younger.
Oh, wow.
So he gave, I designed those, but usually Sarah is the one that makes them. So he actually put up pictures of her stuff and mentioned her by name. And
that's
that
really
was
cool.
Incredibly nice, right?
Yeah, that's really cool.
So it's nice to inspire them, but it's also nice to be inspired by all of those people that are like taking it and running with it.
Yeah.
And all the new technology. I mean, there were no LED little lights that you could just buy.
Yeah.
Back then, and now, the flickers are all LED, like right in front of you here.
Yes.
Doing all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, the technology over the year.
It's just changed so much. A garage door opener, like the light you put over your garage door that'll automatically come on.
Yeah.
That was high tech to turn something on when I started.
Yeah.
You would take those things and just plug them into 110 and put a couple of light bulbs on, so when they walked by, light would come on. Ooh.
That's a good point. I never really thought about it. For you to be doing this for 30 years, like you were in this to see like the change in technology and all the cool things that you got. Like one of my favorite things here was that shrunken head, like
the talking shrunken head.
Yeah, like it's such a cool thing. Like I don't know. It's and like you see like you have the 12-foot or people have them 12-foot skeletons that you could buy.
Yeah.
It's just like it's wild the technology that they got now. If you go to Spirit, before you would see these animatronics and everything, you would only get to see them at bigger haunts and but now people have them at their homes. It's just it's
and
cool.
The Spirit stuff is cheaper. When I first started, a good quality animation, even if it was just popping up, if it had a figure on it, it'd be a couple $1,000s.
Yeah, now you can get them like $150, $200.
Well, and those won't last usually for a pro haunt.
Yeah,
and it's only because like the gears are plastic, not metal.
Yeah,
stuff like that. So you have to be careful with what you build on them because they can't take the weight. like that. I mean, we sometimes buy them, and of course, like I said earlier, have to totally redress them or change them.
Yeah.
And anytime I buy a cheap prop, I pray it works for the one season, and I only buy it if I think it'll look good standing still for the rest of its life.
That's good. That's good forethought.
Yeah.
That's good forethought.
But it's amazing
with
what's
everything.
out there. Home Depot of all places, with crazy stuff like that.
Yeah,
right?
we just went, and they got even more stuff. My cousin just sent me another one. It's not the regular 12-foot skeleton. It's another one with a glowing face, and it looks all like has some sort of patina on it. It looks pretty wild. It's cool. Now your home, like your actual home, is it all decorated for Halloween?
Inside and out.
Yeah,
All year round.
all year round outside is decorated.
There's pumpkins on the porch all year round, like old antique blow molds.
Yeah,
Yeah. We use the
Wow.
ones that aren't. We use the ones that aren't prime condition, so don't bother coming to steal them. They're not worth
I was
anything.
just gonna say.
Yeah. And
You-
our house is set back from the street a little bit, so you'd have to,
Do you ever have any negative things happen in here? Like what's like have you ever had anything like that you had to deal with as far as people like breaking in or stealing shit or anything like that?
Yep.
That happens
It happens.
often.
Only with now former cast members, but it happens.
Ugh.
We had an issue where somebody who I thought was going to be here for the rest of his life and end up being a manager, allegedly, in my heart, knew where I kept the extra spare emergency manager keys. And when we weren't around, would come in with friends to party. And it wouldn't surprise me if just the friends were stealing things, not the actor.
Yeah.
But they later got arrested for breaking into Demon House, and that was the year that 100 Acre Manor got broken into, too. And,
Jesus.
my old place where my ex-wife lives in Bellsville, I may probably still have stuff out in that barn that's no longer mine, because I didn't get it out in time.
Yeah.
Well, that place got broken into, because we have a joke here. If you can't find something, it's probably in the barn in Bellsville. Ha, ha, ha.
Yeah.
So they had heard that joke for years, I'm sure. Yeah, so, yeah, it's only self-inflicted, really.
That's a shame. That's a shame.
Yeah, it is. It happens to everybody. I mean, he actually got arrested for the Demon House one
Whoa.
because they caught him on camera.
There's some justice.
A little
swift
and of course,
justice.
that meant he couldn't be here anymore. I'm like, well, so I'm the bad guy, but that's how it works.
Yeah.
It's
It's a shame. Now, do you think there's anything I forgot? Anything I missed about the podcast? Anything that you wanted to talk about?
Let's see. Not necessarily. I mean, it's. I think we touched on how awesome the cast is here because, I mean, as corny as it sounds, and this is the corniest thing you're ever going to hear me say, Castle Blood. Well, it all starts with C-A-S-T. It starts with the cast.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that have really pulled everything together always.
I mean, that's what it is. It has to be that. This place is cool, but if I walked through here and there was no one in here to tell you stories
cool.
or anything, it would just be cool.
Right.
But this is an experience.
Yep.
Definitely a great time. 30 years is
30 years, 300 cast members.
that's
At least more than that, because some of them might be friends of friends who just show up from one night and I don't even remember their name.
Yeah.
But I actually tried to put a list together a month or so ago because we have scrapbooks from every year.
Wow.
So I'm like going through, looking at pictures, writing everything down and all that kind of stuff. And it's been over 300 people. Some people are in town because they're at the Savini School and they're only here for a little while and they
Yeah.
go. High school kids that get older and leave the area, whatever. So we have a bunch of lifers. I mean, there's already people that I've given 25-year patches to, and I have 6 or 7 more to give out this year.
That's awesome.
So
That's
it's a
really
little
cool that you
crazy.
could build a community like
Yeah,
that.
it's going to be like 30 years, but it's going to be a dozen or so people who've been here, at least 25 of them.
It's incredible.
So we just keep on going.
That really, that's, to come full circle, that really speaks a lot about what this place is.
Yeah.
So, like I said before, for people that might have not ever experienced it, carve some time out this year.
Yeah,
'cause
it's a good
worth
one. I
it.
like the show this year a lot. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. It's going to be so fun, and we've had so many ideas that we already know what next year is going to be.
Next year's going to be.
The 31. Hi, Halloween is October 31st, so the 31st season is always kind of a fun thing, right?
Yeah, it's like-
So it's like Castle 31, Castle 31. So
That's
we
awesome.
And that idea actually for the 31st was from Professor Ezra, who works out on the porch. He's like, I got an idea.
And ran with it there.
Well, they're smart. They talk to each other first before they approach me with an idea.
There you
so
go.
they
That's
can
good.
kind of troubleshoot it between themselves.
That's
before,
good.
So they kind of have market tested it before they bring it to me.
That's smart.
And I'm like, huh. And huh means, it used to mean no, but now huh means, all right, go back to what you're doing and let me think about this for an hour.
Yeah.
You know, because I rip it apart and throw it into all the rooms and see if it'll work.
Yeah.
And then put it back together again. And it's like, yeah, I think, no, we'll go with your idea. Next year's Professor Ezra's. I think he talked to Lady Di about it because it was like in between groups.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, yeah, okay. And then they talked to my wife about it because when I told her, hey, Michael has this great idea, she's like, yeah, I know. It's like, oh, okay.
Well, that's cool. That's cool. You got something to.
But I have this core group where they're starting to write now, so that's cool. I have the Sinister Six, which are the managers, but I also have, which are me, my wife, Chris, Sarah, my daughter, and Bill Belfry. But then I have like 4 or 5 other people that are here a lot.
Yeah.
And have been here a lot, and they're here a lot building. So they get it because since they're here building with me, they hear me.
Your thought.
They hear my thoughts of building of what's going to happen in the scene as it's happening because
Yeah.
they're helping me build it.
Yeah.
So they have a better comprehension of how things kind of come together.
Yeah.
So that inspires them hopefully to
They
have
have
ideas too.
They have a little bit more insight of how your mind works.
And I also sometimes make them stand in a room and go, I have this idea. Can you walk over here and see if this is actually going to work and do this? And what do you think? You
I
know?
feel like that would just be such a fun experience to get to go through and build that out. It's a great place. I love it.
I'm really happy, really glad for that.
Ending segment that I do with everyone is an ending segment called Desert Island Questions. This one is obviously Halloween edition. First category, or Desert Island Questions, whenever I give each guest 3 categories to take with them on a desert island and use until they starve to death and die. First category is 3 Halloween movies that you would take to watch over and over and over again.
I would take the original 1978 Halloween. I would take Hocus Pocus. And I would take Bride of Frankenstein. So there's 3 different eras, 3 different styles.
Yeah, 3 different vibes.
Yeah.
What do you think about the second Hocus Pocus?
I'm excited. The long trailer just hit the other day.
Yeah.
It seems like they're doing some of the same gags a little bit, but I like the overall prehistory that I saw in the trailer, and I like how they're getting into the witches returning. That seems cool.
Yeah.
And, to be honest, my daughter is a big Hocus Pocus fan,
Yeah.
big time. Like, she can recite the movie because she's of that age where when it really started hitting on
How old
TV.
is she? 32?
33.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you.
Right. She even knows the French words in the library when they get burned up. I mean, she knows everything. So we watch it so often. Well, even if they're doing some of the same gags, we were going to watch it anyway on the first one, so why not keep watching it on the second one?
Yeah.
You know?
I'm my whole thought of everything is like, I just go into it just hoping that it's all right. Hoping that I don't hold it to any crazy standard.
Yeah.
But Jamie Foxx came out with a new vampire movie. It's called Day Shift.
I saw that on Netflix last night. I didn't watch it, but I saw the thing.
It was sensational.
Oh, good,
I was like, how good could this be with Jamie Foxx and David Franco? I like both of them.
And Snoop.
Yeah, and Snoop is in there. I can't take that away. But I was like, how could this vampire movie be? I loved it. It was fantastic.
We didn't see it. We didn't notice it until like 2:30 in the morning. And since we had to do this with you today, I'm like, I'm not getting into this starting at 2:30 in the morning.
It's worth a watch though if you
Okay,
got
good.
some time. It's not too bad.
I'm also looking forward to the new Munsters movie.
Yeah.
A friend of mine is grandpa,
Oh, really?
like an actual friend who is like, he's a monster kid.
Yeah.
I met him at conventions.
Oh, wow.
Now, he was the assistant lawyer on Matlock for years, which I didn't know, Dan Roebuck. At the time I met him, he was just a monster collector.
Yeah.
First time I met him was at Monster Bash in Pittsburgh because he's from Pennsylvania.
Ah.
So I'm like, okay, well, Rob Zombie, I hate love most of his movies. I love his music. What's he going to do to the Munsters? oh, well, Dan Roebuck is in it. Well, hell, Dan's not going to let him screw this up.
Yeah.
Or at least Dan's character is going to be freaking awesome.
Yeah, the previews
So-
looked good for, like what could it,
Well, now that I realize it's a prequel, so we don't have to worry about Marilyn and Eddie and all that kind of stuff, and they kind of get to write their own story because it's a prequel.
yeah, and it doesn't have a, history that's already
Right.
like outlined.
Right.
Yeah, so it'll be
So-
interesting. I like
Yeah.
all of his movies really. The only ones that I'm not crazy about, like the second Halloween with the white horses and stuff like that. That's that's the only one that I was just over with really. And but what could you do with it? I don't go into it with a high expectation.
Right.
That's what you got to do with all the horror movies nowadays.
Yep.
Have you saw Nope with Jordan Peele?
Oh, we haven't yet. No, we've seen all the other Jordan Peele stuff, and we like that a lot.
Yeah, Nope was cool.
Yeah.
It was a different vibe than the rest of it, but it's cool. There's there's been good horror coming out. I'm preparing for
This one's probably 5 years old now. Do you see Lights Out?
yes. Yeah, that's with the blind guy?
No.
No.
This is a ghost story.
Maybe I didn't.
You should look at it. It's weird. It had my wife crawling up the back of the couch.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
In the living room.
The
crawling
other
up
one
the
that
back
I
of the
just
couch.
watched, I'm preparing for a Halloween movie episode, and we're just watching these Halloween movies, and we just watched Hereditary again. Have you watched that? It's like, what a wild one that one is. It's like some of the newer ones are good. I'm hoping that Barbarian movie is good. Second category, 3 Halloween candy. Like, what are your 3 favorite Halloween candies?
Candies, not food. Candies.
Both, I guess.
Okay, well, I'm going to go candy corn. I'm a traditionalist.
Oh, wow.
I like all the mellow cream stuff.
Okay.
I like what's called harvest mix out of that. Like
Yeah.
autumn mix is the candy corn and the pumpkins.
Yeah.
I like harvest mix because
have the
it also has
cornucopias?
the maple and the chocolate in it.
Oh, wow.
They'll have like witches and moons and cats in it, and you can only find it. You can get it at Giant Eagle in small little bags.
Yeah.
So I like that because when I was a kid, it was always the mixed flavors.
Okay.
So I like that. That's my favorite candy, if I have to say candy.
Okay.
Let's see, what else do I really jonesing for at Halloween then? I'm a junkie for most of the pumpkin-flavored stuff. My favorite cookies is the Pepperidge Farm pumpkin cookies that have white chocolate chips in them.
Oh, yeah.
I like those. A little pricey, but like those.
That's good.
But I will also eat those crappy Little Debbie pumpkin Swiss rolls too.
Easy. Easy. I don't really shy anything away.
yeah.
What are you a candy bar person?
I am.
What's your candy bar of choice?
Are they called 100 grand now?
Yeah,
it used to be
100
100. When I was a kid, they were $100,000 bars.
Oh,
It's
really?
kind-
It's 100 grand, I think.
Right. It used to. It's like a mix. It's a cross between a Milky Way and a Nestle Crunch bar.
Yeah.
Right.
I never knew it was $100,000.
That's what it
and
used
why
to
it
be.
changed.
Yeah.
That's weird.
And with my Canadian wife and Canadian family, I get a whole new
We just went to Canada.
stuff of candy that are Halloween themed. Like they have this one that's a wafer, sort of like those wafer cookies you get, but coated, right? But it's the cream in it is coffee flavored, and that's a year-round thing for. They're called Coffee Crisp. Right?
Oh, wow.
Well, they package it as Coffin Crisp and put a coffin on the label and everything at Halloween. And their M&Ms are called Smarties, and they're slightly different flavor than ours. But they have a black cat on the box, and they're called Scaries at Halloween. I mean, the packaging is beautiful.
Yeah, that's
like
cool.
I collected one of everything, and I'm going to make her a shadow box
Oh,
as
that's
a
cool.
collection of all the Canadian Halloween candies.
Wow.
So
We
it's
just
like,
went to
man.
Toronto, and we had, I can't remember what they are. They're long bars that are, I guess they're like that's like the candy that it is. There was, I don't know. I can't remember what they were
She
called.
loves Mars bars up there.
Mars bars were good.
Different than Milky Ways, for sure.
That's what did you mean whenever you said Halloween foods?
Oh, just like cookies and stuff.
Oh,
just
okay,
candy
yeah,
or
I was gonna
whatever,
say.
you know, yeah.
Now, what like were you someone who like did like the make it look like a body out of like out of deli meats and everything like that?
Sort of. We did that on the show once in a while. There was a
Yeah.
segment when we had our TV show where some of the characters would be sitting on the couch and actually watching the movie we're showing, like breaking that. Almost like putting the fourth wall back up, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
we're hosting the movie, so I may be talking about the historical parts of the movie to the audience in one room.
Yeah.
But then there's characters in the living room watching the movie, but you see them from like the TV angle.
Yeah.
And we would put like a corpse on the coffee table in front of him, and we would wrap the corpse. All the flesh was fruit roll-ups.
That's the best.
So they would just like reach over and pick and tear parts up, and they're like,
Yeah, it just
"You're not
looks cool.
supposed to eat that. It's so fatty." And it's like, "Oh, but the skin's the best part." You know.
I like all of it. It's just it's fun that extra level of it all.
Yeah.
Okay, third category is I'm not going to say Halloween, but if you had to pick 3 CDs to take with you on a desert island to listen to for the rest of your life,
Halloween for that.
All right,
because since I've been on before and I talked about Bruce Springsteen and the Monkees, probably
That's fine.
Halloween ones. I will take Rob Zombie's compilation Halloween Hootenanny that came out in '98.
That's good.
Because that introduced me to like the Ghastly Ones and all kinds of rockabilly, gothabilly, psychobilly bands. So that was awesome. I'm going to go with Zachary Monster Mash from the 60s.
Okay.
He was the second most famous horror host, first Vampira, then Zachary.
Okay.
And he was on the East Coast, so I grew up with him in the New York market. Third, I'm going to take Andrew Gold's Halloween Howls. Andrew Gold wrote "Thank You for Being a Friend."
Thank you for being a friend.
Right, from the Golden Girls. And he was in other bands, and he had that sort of hit song, "Oh, What a Lonely Boy."
Ah.
So he was legit, right?
Yeah.
Well, when he had kids in the late 90s, he did a whole Halloween album.
Wow.
And there's new things he wrote and a few covers of classic ones.
Huh.
And it's very charming and very fun. And just like Hocus Pocus, it's a me and my daughter thing.
Yeah. That's good. Those
So
are good
I will
answers.
Take those 3 albums.
Okay. Third to last question is the death row meal. About to get put to death. You get an appetizer, a main course, and a dessert.
Whatever it entails, I'm going to go with a classic Thanksgiving turkey dinner.
Oh, okay. That's good.
I just love it. And pumpkin pie afterwards.
Yeah, I can't wait for it. That's one thing.
I love it so much, I even eat those damn Get-Go gobbler sandwiches.
Oh yeah, I got one. Whenever I interviewed Chef Tom from Get Go, and I actually, we talked about all that, and before I interviewed him, I never really got any of those, like the novelty type sandwiches. Started getting them, unreal, with the little cranberry on there and the stuffing bread. Can't beat it.
It took a little getting used to and just trusting him, I guess, to deal with the cheese sauce that's in the middle of it. I'm not used to cheese sauce on the whole turkey thing. But I got a lot about Halloween is wrapped up with me and my daughter. Because I'm a dad who built this kid a castle. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
right?
that's exactly it.
Right. She grew up in it. Right. So when she has Thanksgiving dinner, always she gets a bowl, and she lines the bowl with turkey and puts the mashed potatoes and stuffing and the corn in the bowl way before KFC was doing it.
She was innovative.
And that's how she eats her Thanksgiving dinner.
I do. I like mixing it all.
So it just translated perfectly right into eating that gobbler sub. It's just everything all at once, all good.
Yeah, that's good stuff. That's a good answer for a last meal for sure. That's definitely something that I would choose. All right, second to last question. If you're getting ready to go on a road trip and you get to go into a gas station and get a snack, what would it be? What's your snack of choice?
Maybe Twizzlers.
Twizzlers.
Yeah, because I don't have to worry about them getting hot in the car melting either.
That's a good point. I recently anytime we were at work, people would bring some shit in and just put them on the table, and everyone just picks at it like vultures. Someone brought in Twizzlers a couple months ago, but then like a month later, they brought in Red Vines.
Yeah, West Coast.
I hated a Red Vine.
My ex-wife is from California, and they were all Red Vines, right? The East Coast didn't have them until Walmart started bringing them nationally.
I thought they were terrible. But a Twizzler I
waxy.
enjoy. Yeah, waxy. They were waxy, fake tasting. Yeah. Okay, last question. If you could have a conversation with anyone alive or dead, who would it be and why?
Let's see. So I'm not going to count my folks because that's too easy.
That's too easy.
Yeah.
Someone that you're not related to.
Right. So, I probably should try and maybe pick like maybe James Whale, like the old Universal Monster director.
I didn't know who that was.
Yeah.
James Whale.
Yeah.
He directed like the Wolfman and everything?
He directed a bunch of stuff. He didn't direct Wolfman, but he did direct Bride of Frankenstein. He directed... They actually made a movie about him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, with Gandalf playing him.
No way.
Ian McKellen. Yeah, it's real good. It's called Gods and Monsters.
Gods and Monsters.
Yeah, I'd highly recommend it. So somebody like that I think would be interesting just because... The interesting questions you're asking me seem to be today all about my process.
Yeah.
And that's what I like to find out about other people too, like why I watch Inside the Actors Studio.
Absolutely.
Those are the kind of questions and interviews and chats that I really like.
Yeah.
So it'd be easy to say Mickey Mantle, but I did meet him in real life a couple times and talk to him, so okay, fine. It'd be easy to say some of these other people, but I think somebody in the arts
That's fitting.
died long before I was influenced by their work.
Yeah.
You know?
That would be a
So-
great opportunity.
So for today, since the Halloween theme of everything, I'm going to go with James Whale, the director.
That's a good answer. That's a good answer. There's two things I need to watch. I need to watch that haunted house documentary, and I need to watch Gods and Monsters.
And you need to watch Lights Out.
Lights Out too, yeah. Maybe I'll watch that tonight, actually. All right, well, I appreciate it. You know, this is fantastic. I was pumped to be able to come back again and talk to you a little bit more prepared and a little bit more, a little bit more into my craft, but, take a second and, give everyone the information on where they could find you, your Instagram, the website, the whole nine.
Sure. So the website has changed because, well, it's changed. So it's The Castle Blood now, but that actually lines up with all our other stuff. So you can find us on Facebook, Castle Blood, Instagram, TikToks, all that things are just look for The Castle Blood.
You got TikTok? Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah, my daughter and some of the younger cast members convinced me to let them go wild with it last Halloween.
Up with the times.
Yeah,
I don't even
know.
have a TikTok.
Well, I mean, when we used to have, I have to justify it in my head as, yes, it's all comedy and looks ridiculous, but that's really kind of what we did on the horror host show. So who cares, right?
It's definitely interesting. It's
Yeah.
interesting how people utilize it, and it's fun. I like to make stupid videos and, just be silly with it.
I mean, sometimes she does nice things that show the castle well, and sometimes it's
Silly.
you take one of those soundbite things that everybody's using and you
Yeah.
want to do our version of it. So that's
I
fun.
like that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
good.
There, you can, if you're not on TikTok, you can actually go to the Facebook page and the videos and the reels and see them all.
They'll all be on there.
So they're all on there too. Yeah.
Thanks again. I appreciate it. Everyone else that's listening, as usual, each and every week we're back with great guests doing great things, and specifically a great guest like Rick to kick off the Halloween season. So thank you for listening. Call you right back.